Today, I messed up by trying to fix a small bug at work, which instead caused the entire office to come crumbling down to its knees, putting me in a situation where I was convinced I literally deleted the company, which is an experience I will not forget anytime soon. Welcome back to Am I the Jerk, the only show where technology can betray you in ways that will really ruin your life. And the original poster in this first story quite literally almost destroys the entire company as he tries to cosplay as the IT guy of the office and essentially bring everything crashing down around him. It's a pretty hilarious chain of events, and I think you're gonna like this first one. Subscribe to Am I the Jerk if you haven't already, and click the bell to turn on notifications. Let's get started. Okay, so my boss asked if anybody could just check the server real quick, and for some dumb reason, my idiot hand basically volunteered before my brain caught up to what I was doing, which already tells you exactly how this was gonna go before it happened. Now, I am not IT. I need to say that first because people at work keep acting like I'm basically a technician just because I know how to reset the printer, and one time I fixed the conference room TV when it was on the wrong input. That is the level that we're dealing with here, people. Now, yesterday, the actual IT guy was homesick. The shared drive was moving like absolute death, and people were complaining every 5 seconds. Files were hanging, Excel was not opening, somebody from accounting was already doing that thing where they sigh really loud so everybody knows they're suffering, and my boss was acting like, okay, can you just look at it for a second before this becomes a whole thing? So yeah, I said I'll check it, and that was honestly such a huge mistake. I log onto the server thing, or one of the server things. Honestly, I don't even remember exactly which panel I was in, because after a point, it all just kind of turned into tabs and a lot of fear. I started Googling symptoms like some guy diagnosing himself on WebMD. I eventually find some forum post from 2017, and on it, some guy saying, well, if network storage gets weird, sometimes you can clear the temporary cache or refresh the mount. I mean, that can help. And in my head, that sounded low stakes, like unplugging the router and plugging it back in. Very normal, harmless, office hero kind of stuff. So I ran a command I half understood and half emotionally believed in. And for maybe 10 seconds, nothing happened. And I actually had this stupid little moment of pride, like, wow, maybe I've got this. Maybe I should have worked in IT this whole time. Then I hear somebody across the room go, did my files just disappear? And then another person goes, wait, I can't open anything. Then my own window starts vomiting errors. Not cute little pop-ups, but full-on angry text blocks. I know this sounds dramatic, but it felt like the computer was personally offended that I touched it. I start clicking around, trying to reverse whatever I did. And of course, there's no giant button that says, sorry, my bad, put the company back. I restarted one service because that sounded responsible. Then another because the first one clearly made it worse. Now the whole shared drive is just gone. Not deleted, apparently, but to everybody in the office, it looked deleted, which is honestly close enough when 15 people are standing up asking why every folder vanished. Someone actually said, did we get hacked? And I just sat there going, no, probably not, in that voice that people use when it absolutely might be a yes. I was sweating through my shirt, pretending to be calm, doing that fake squint at the monitor like I was deeply troubleshooting, when really I was just clicking things and hoping the server would develop some semblance of sympathy. My boss then comes over asking for an update, and I say I think it's reconnecting, which is just completely not true. It was more disconnecting, like aggressively disconnecting. I could feel the whole room getting weird and quiet in waves and then loud again. One girl from Human Resources had a yogurt in her hand the entire time, and for some reason that detail is burned into my brain because she just kept standing there eating it while the office died. Anyways, this went on for 2 hours. 2 full hours of 15 people basically being unable to work because I wanted to be useful for once. Well, the IT guy finally remotes in from home and messages asking who touched the server, and I had that awful frozen moment where I considered lying for maybe half a second. Not seriously, just like a survival reflex. But obviously logs exist, and also I am not built for crime, so I told him, yeah, that was me. There was then this pause, and then he just said to me, why? He wasn't even angry, which somehow made it worse. He was just exhausted. Like I had become one more item on the list of reasons he needed a better job. It turns out the command didn't clear the cache the way my peanut brain thought it would. It basically told the system to forget where the storage volume was mounted. So I didn't erase the files, I just made the office unable to see them, which is a very fun distinction that nobody in the moment really appreciated. Well, this guy fixed it in like 5 minutes, maybe less. And my God, I wanted to actually crawl under the desk. Now after that, nobody yelled, nobody even made a joke right away, which was somehow more humiliating because the whole place had this awkward library energy. And I could tell everybody knew, but they were deciding how mean to be later on. My boss finally just said that next time wait for IT, and I mean, yeah, that's completely fair. Hard to argue with that when I basically office nuked the file system simply because some random forum guy said, oh yeah, it looks safe. So now I'm pretty sure I'm forever the moron who deleted the company, even though technically nothing was lost, and holy crap, technically is doing a lot of heavy lifting here. Oh my gosh, dude, this is like my nightmare. I am not tech savvy at all. And I know for a fact if I was in the original poster shoes, I would be sweating bullets, dude. I would be so anxious. Like, bro, I already sweat like crazy when I work out and when I'm under like stressful situations. And this would hit probably both of those nerves and be like, okay, now buckets of sweat everywhere. And people would see pretty quickly like, oh yeah, he has no idea what he's doing. And it's good because if I'm sweating, then people can't see the tears. So yeah, dude, you got away with a crime. I know jobs where if you mess with the IT infrastructure in any way, they literally would just fire you on the spot and replace you that same day. So the fact that you still have a job, I think is probably the only silver lining here, because otherwise this is incredibly humiliating. If you like Am I the Jerk and what we're doing over here, please check out Am I the Genius. It's going to be linked down below in the description. Just click and go ahead and subscribe to them. And also, if you have your own stories you want to submit, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you want to submit your own stories. We're reading them all the time and we're picking out the best ones, so trust me, we would love to hear what you have to say. Am I overreacting by asking my neighbor to change her cat's name after she literally named it after my dead daughter who passed away less than a year ago? Because right now things are really hard and we're all grieving the loss of this kid. And this situation is not making anything better and I just don't know what to do. Here's what's happening. Okay, for a bit of context, my 14-year-old daughter, who I will call Zoe, passed away in December of 2025. It was very sudden and very traumatic for our entire family. She wasn't sick. Like, I went to get groceries and I just came home and she was gone. Now, on to the issue at hand. My youngest daughter, who I will call Lucy, is 9 years old. She had friends in the neighborhood that she is close to and will play with often. And one of these girls has been talking about getting a kitten for months now. Well, yesterday she finally got one. Her and her mom came to our door and introduced us to her new kitten. And it was really adorable, and Lucy loved it too. She asked what her friend had called the cat, and word for word, her friend looked at her and said, Zoe, like, you know, your dead sister. Well, it was immediate silence until Lucy ran away in tears. I asked them to leave and went to check on Lucy, and she was beside herself. After we had a long talk, I politely reached out to my neighbor and plainly told her we weren't ready to hear Zoe's name around the neighborhood yet. It was too soon and it was hurting my daughter. Well, the mom replied and said that her daughter had fallen in love with the name and she wouldn't be asking her to change it. She also said that I was out of place asking her to do this. She then apologized for hurting Lucy's feelings, but assured me that the girls would make up and it would be all forgotten pretty soon. But it's like, what? I honestly can't believe this. How could someone be so ignorant? Our daughter died, and now I'm devastated. I don't know how to break this news to Lucy at all. So seriously, was I overreacting? Or am I totally justified? It's nice to have an outsider's perspective because sometimes I do overreact. I'm a grieving mom and I just can't see through it. What should I do? Okay, holy crap, these people are monsters. You're really trying to tell me that, oh yeah, let's name the cat after the dead girl next door. What are we doing right now? You have to be morally bankrupt to be okay with that. Seriously, the mom in this story who's like the neighbor, who really is trying to excuse this behavior and be like, oh sorry, we already settled on Zoe. Yes, your daughter died by the same name. No, we don't care. Like, the fact that she's trying to make that argument is crazy. And the fact that the kid said it so flippantly, like, oh yeah, we're gonna name our cat Zoe after your dead sister. That to me proves that this was a conversation already, and the mom's clearly okay with that. She's clearly okay openly like mocking the fact that, yeah, we're using your dead daughter's name as our cat and there's nothing you can do about it. Oh, by the way, our daughters will still be friends. Thanks. Like, what are we doing right now, bro? I would never let my kid over there ever again. I would ban that little brat from ever coming to my place ever again. Like, bro, Zoe died less than a year ago, and they really want to have this negative association with this cat and your dead daughter? Like, holy crap, dude. These people really suck. So no, you're not overreacting. I would tell them to get lost and I would never want them around ever again, because this level of insensitivity is shocking and just completely out of line. Am I the jerk for refusing to finish my coworker's work once again after she missed a deadline and expected me to somehow cover her? Because after reflecting on it, I kind of think I was a jerk about it, and I'm not sure if I made a mistake. Here's what's going on. Okay, so I work in a small office where most of us share our different tasks pretty closely, and one of my coworkers tends to leave things unfinished and just assumes someone else will sort it out. And most of the time that ends up being me, mostly because I like things done properly and I do not enjoy loose ends sitting around. Well, last week we had a report due that required input from both of us, and she said that she would handle her portion by Thursday. Well, Thursday passed and nothing was ready. On Friday morning, she casually mentioned that she had been busy and asked if I could just fill in the gaps since I'm better with the details. Now that irritated me more than I expected. It was not just about the report. It honestly felt like a pattern where my reliability was being quietly taken advantage of. So I told her I'm not going to complete her part of this and that she needed to finish what she agreed to. I tried tried to keep my tone even, but I did not soften it much either. Well, when I said this, she seemed really surprised and a bit embarrassed, and later that day, she stayed late to finish it herself. Well, ever since then, things have been slightly tense. I understand that people go through things, but I also feel like I set a reasonable boundary. But still, I keep wondering if maybe I came across as unnecessarily cold when a softer approach might have worked just as well. So all in all, am I really the jerk for refusing to step in and for how I said it to them? Because right now, I don't know if I made a mistake. No, you're not the jerk. You're literally just being professional here. Because from the sounds of it, it really does seem like your coworker's just straight up taking advantage of you. They're saying to you, hey, sorry, but I'm really busy. Can you fill in the gaps? When guess what? They absolutely could do that themselves. They're not incompetent. They know how to do this crap. They just don't want to do it because they're bored. They know you could do it better, so it's like, oh, you just do it. But at the end of the day, they just don't want to. Even though they definitely could, like, why else are they staying late getting it done? So no, you're not the jerk. I think setting these kind of boundaries and being like, dude, I'm not gonna do your work for you. You've got to step up and do it. Like, that's completely reasonable, and I think in this case, absolutely necessary. My landlord came into my apartment without my permission while I was taking a shower, quite literally putting me in one of the weirdest situations I've ever been in my entire life. Because after he did that, I decided right there on the spot that I'm not renewing my lease with this guy. And now I'm not sure if I'm the jerk for doing this, and I just don't know if I made a mistake. Here's how it all happened. Okay, I want to start off by saying that I'm still shaking a little bit while I'm writing this out because this is crazy. For starters, I've rented from this guy for 2 years. He's this small private landlord who's an older gentleman, and generally we've been fine until very recently. The first time he showed up, as said in the title, unannounced, he said he wanted to check the boiler. I then thought to myself, okay, that's really annoying, but fine, whatever. The second time, he said a neighbor complained about a water stain on the ceiling below me, and at the time, I wasn't home, so I only found out he was there because he left a note on my kitchen counter, which was in and of itself its own kind of unsettling. But today is when it really went off. I was in the shower at around 11 o'clock in the morning, and for reference, I work from home on Wednesdays, and it's here that I heard the front door open. And when I heard this, I froze. I grabbed a towel and I came out, and he was literally just standing there in my kitchen looking at the window frame, saying that he thought there might be a draft issue. Now, here's the thing. He didn't call me, he didn't text me, he literally gave me no notice. Just a 67-year-old man in my kitchen on a Wednesday morning, all because he thought there might be a draft of some kind. I was so startled, I didn't even react properly in the moment. I just stood there in a towel while he explained the window situation, like this was completely normal. After he left, I sat on the couch for a long time. Then I emailed him and told him that I would not be renewing my lease in March, and that going forward, he's required to give me at least 24 hours written notice before entering my apartment, as this is my legal right. He then replied saying he was sorry if he startled me, but that as the owner, he has the right to maintain his property, and he hoped that I would reconsider leaving over a simple misunderstanding. Now, my friend thinks I overreacted and that older landlords just operate differently, but my sister thinks I should have called the police in that moment. But I don't think I overreacted. I think a person walking into my home while I'm in the shower is not a misunderstanding. It's a violation, and I'm not going to stand for it. So, am I the jerk for deciding that was the last time? Because right now I don't know what to do. Bro, if you don't set up some cameras in your house, you're crazy. Seriously, this guy's walking in while you're taking a shower. He's coming into your house when you're not there and leaving a note. Like, dude, how many times has he been in there and you just don't know about it? Like, that's crazy talk, dude. I'm not gonna be okay with that. And this guy's trying to be like, oh yeah, I have a right to maintain my property. But it's like, yeah, your tenants also have a right to know when you're gonna be there, dude. You can't just be there without announcing it first. That's not okay. That's very invasive and very violating. And also, this is an adult. This is a 67-year-old man. He knows he's not supposed to be in there without your permission, and yet he's clearly going in there anyways without talking to you first, hoping that you probably won't say anything about it. But no, there's rules for a reason, and in this case, it sounds like you have a legal right to that. So no, you're definitely not the jerk. I would never want to stay there either, because what he's doing is completely inappropriate, and you have a right to privacy. My girlfriend slept with another guy after we agreed to go on a short break, just so my girlfriend could explore herself and find out who she really is. But now that we're back together, I feel completely heartbroken. I didn't expect this to affect me as much as it did, and honestly, I don't know what to do. Here's what's happening. Okay, so for a bit of context, my girlfriend and I have been dating for almost 3 years, and we've had very little issues over those 3 years, and it's been great. Lately though, she's been getting this fear of missing out about missing her opportunity to be young and just experiencing her 20s. She says she wants me forever, but doesn't know what she wants right now. She feels like she needs to be alone for a while just to experience life. Not necessarily be with other people or anything like that, but just figure figure herself out because she's never really been in any long-term relationships. Now, I really just don't share that same type of feeling because a long-term relationship is what I always pictured for myself. But she says she misses the excitement in our relationship, and because of that, she wants to experience flirting with other people and just getting attention from other people other than me. I'm a very open-minded person and we both love each other very much, so we talked about it, and I decided I'm open to her trying this if maybe it's just an itch that she's needing to scratch to figure out what she wants in her life. I trust that she would be open and honest with me about anything she's feeling, and I think I convinced myself that I wasn't as worried as I maybe should have been. So long story short, because I love her and we both want each other long term, I convinced myself I'm okay with her trying this to confirm that she only wants me. And it's right about here that everything started to fall apart. Fast forward to today and I'm out of town, so I suggested that maybe we take a sort of break while I'm out of town so we don't actually force a break. So this would mean that she could do whatever she wants because I want her to figure out what will make her happy. I love her very much and I want her, so I try to help her be happy this way, and I don't feel too strongly that I would lose feelings if she slept with someone else. I had considered this possibility when talking about a break, and all I asked is that it wasn't someone she knew already, like friends or a coworker or something like that. Anyways, last night she went out to the club with some friends and ended up going back to this guy's place, and they made out and did the dirty, if you know what I mean. She then says to me that it was really bad and that she was thinking of me the whole time, and now can't possibly imagine that she wants anyone but me. Now, I wasn't really mad about it, but just more so shocked that it happened, and I'm really super anxious now. I haven't been able to stop thinking about it, and she says it's okay if I want to break up with her, and that she now feels super guilty about sleeping with that guy. So I'm kind of stuck on how to feel because I did agree that she could do whatever she wanted, and I mentally prepared for the possibility, but now that it actually happened, I really don't know how to feel. I'm glad that it wasn't someone that we knew, and I'm glad that she was honest about what had happened. It also achieved what we were hoping to find out, which was letting her experiment to confirm whether or not she wanted to continue our relationship, which thankfully she does. But I really just don't know how to feel. I've definitely calmed down since she told me, but I don't know what to do about our future. I really do love her, and I want her and I to be happy together, but after all of this, I doubt whether or not I should continue our relationship. I really don't want to break up, but at the same time, maybe I feel like we should split. I mean, I really don't know. So for my question to the people, what should I do here? I'm heavily leaning towards staying because of the openness and honesty of the whole situation, especially considering this is something that I agreed to. What should I do? Okay, I've said it once on this channel, I'll say it 1,000 more times. I don't think open relationships are a good idea because it absolutely will end in heartache. This is a prime example of what happens. Here you have a guy who's like, oh man, my girlfriend wants to experience her 20s still. She wants to get out there and be desired by other men. I'm just gonna let her do it. I'm open to this. If she sleeps around, it's gonna be fine. I'm not gonna worry about it. Oh yeah? And then it happens, and then guess what? This guy's like, oh wait, this feels wrong. I don't like this at all. I don't know if I want to be with you anymore. And it's like, yeah, you went through all the process of being like, I'm ready for this. I've mentally prepared for it. So yeah, honey, go out there and sleep with another guy. And then you have the audacity to sit there and be like, oh my God, I can't believe I feel this way. It's crazy that I'm upset about this. I mean, I prepared properly for it. Like, dude, you're an idiot. What are you doing right now? If I'm being 100% honest with the original poster, you could do so much better than this girlfriend. Like the second she said, I just want to experiment and go with other guys and get attention from other people, that would have been my moment to dip and be like, okay, we're breaking up. Go do that. Like, dude, what are we doing? If you really didn't see this as a red flag, then I don't know what to tell you, because holy crap, this girl's gonna rip your heart out and throw it to the curb. I mean, my God, dude, you agreed to it too. That's crazy to me. So yeah, this is a mess. I think you have your work cut out for you if you do want to stay with her, but I can confidently say that if my girlfriend did that and was like, I just want to see other people right now, can we go on a break so I can sleep around? I would begin the process of breaking up with her and I would not look back, because that is not the kind of person I want to spend my life with, and clearly she feels the same way. Am I the jerk for refusing to laugh at a customer's creepy joke he made towards me, as I honestly didn't find it funny, and if anything, it was really just disturbing, because eventually my manager got involved and I actually got in trouble with him for not just going along with it. And now I'm kind of wondering if I made the wrong choice and I just don't know what to do. Here's basically what happened. Okay, so I've been working in retail for like 3 years and I have mastered the customer service mask. You know the one, the fake smile, the polite nod, and the forced laugh at every dad joke about an item not scanned being free, but today I just couldn't do it anymore. I was at the register during a massive rush. The line was out the door, I was sweating, and I had not taken a break in like 5 hours. This guy, probably in his late 40s, comes up, and he's buying a bunch of stuff and he's being slow on purpose, just staring at me. Well, as I'm bagging his items, he makes this really gross, edgy joke about why he's buying a specific tool. It was not funny, it was borderline harassing, and honestly, it made my skin crawl. Now, I didn't say anything. I didn't glare, I just stayed blank. I finished scanning his stuff and told him the total in a completely flat, professional tone. But guess what? He didn't pay. He just stood there and said, "You're supposed to laugh, sweetheart. I'm the customer." But I then told him that I'm just trying to get through the line quickly since people were waiting. And when I said this, he literally got offended. He started raising his voice, saying I was miserable and disrespectful, and that apparently part of my job is to make sure the customer has a good experience, which apparently includes stroking his ego. And at this point, I finally snapped. I said to him, "Sir, my job is to process your transaction and not be your audience. Do you want the receipt or not?" He ended up calling my manager, and my manager is usually okay, but he pulled me aside later and said I should have just giggled and let it go to avoid the drama. And now I'm sitting here wondering if I'm actually the jerk for making a scene by not reacting. What should I do? Dude, I'm surprised you finished out that transaction after you made some creepy joke. Because guess what? You're right. You're not obligated to laugh at these weird, disgusting jokes he makes. Like, I probably would have canceled his stuff and been like, okay, you gotta go to another register or you gotta go somewhere else because I am not helping you. Because you don't have to put up with that. You don't have to be talked to like that. You don't need this adult 40-year-old man making creepy comments towards you. And in my opinion, the fact that your manager's like, oh, come on, just giggle. You should have just laughed a little bit to avoid the manager. That, in my opinion, is the mark of a terrible manager. He would leave you hanging if he had the chance just to avoid getting in trouble instead of, standing up for his coworkers. Like, oh my God. Because holy crap, if one of my female cashiers came up to me and said, oh, this guy's making creepy jokes towards me, I would have happily told this guy to get lost and that he's not purchasing anything today and canceled his transaction and taken the blunt end of anything he has to say. Because dude, if he's making like borderline harassing statements, then he's gotta go. I'm sorry, but you gotta shop somewhere else, buddy. So the fact that he's like, just go along with it next time. I mean, come on, don't be so mean. Like, no, dude, you're not under any obligation to laugh at these creepy comments. And in my opinion, I think you handled this well by shutting this guy down and trying to stay professional. My entitled sister demands that I give her a $10,000 loan so that she can have her dream wedding exactly as she wants it. But now that I've told her no and that I don't have that kind of money laying around, she's turned the entire family against me, as she has them somehow convinced that I'm the selfish one and not her. And at this point, I honestly don't know what to do. Here's what happened. This story also came from the Am I the Jerk subreddit. Check the links in the description if you would like to submit your own story. Okay, so here's the situation. I'm a 28-year-old male and I have a 26-year-old sister who is getting married in a few months. We've always had a bit of a rocky relationship. Growing up, she was the golden child, always getting what she wanted, and I often felt like my needs and accomplishments were overlooked in comparison. This became even more apparent when we both started getting older, and I noticed that whenever she had a problem or wanted something, it was always expected that I'd be there to support her, even when it was inconvenient for me. Well, now she's planning this huge wedding, like really extravagant. She's talking about a destination wedding, fancy venues, and a designer dress, the whole works. She's already racked up a huge bill, and a couple of weeks ago, she came to me asking for a loan of $10,000 just to help cover some of the cost. She mentioned how my other sibling, who by the way has a lot more money than I do, had already agreed to contribute, and it's just expected that I'll do the same. Now, here's the thing. I don't have that kind of money lying around, and I've been working hard to pay off student loans and save for my own future. I didn't feel comfortable dipping into my savings for something that I feel is frankly a bit excessive. I politely told her that I couldn't afford it, but she became really upset and said that family helps each other out and that I should be there for her, especially since she helped me when I was in a tough spot a couple of years ago. And for reference, I had a health issue that set me back financially. Now, I tried to explain that while I appreciated her past help, I am not in a position to help with her wedding, and I don't think it's reasonable to expect me to give such a large sum. She then got really angry and started telling the rest of the family that I was being selfish and unsupportive. And now most of my relatives are siding with her, saying I should just make it work for the family. I'm honestly feeling really conflicted. I know it's her big day, but I don't think I should have to sacrifice my financial stability for it. So truly, am I the jerk for refusing to help pay for the wedding? Because right now I don't know what to do. Before we go any further, the original poster has a lot of updates they want to share. Here's what they had to say. First of all, I want to thank everyone for your feedback on my initial post. I've been reading through all the comments and I'm trying to take in the advice and perspectives. I honestly didn't expect the response to be so overwhelming, but it's been really helpful in sorting through my own feelings about this situation. I wanted to share an update since things have progressed since I posted. After I turned down my sister's request for the $10,000 loan, things did not go well. She was furious, and as I mentioned before, she told the rest of the family that I was being selfish and unsupportive. At first, it was mostly just her and a couple of other relatives siding with her, but the situation quickly escalated. My mom, in particular, has been really pressuring me to just help out because family sticks together and it's her big day. It's been really uncomfortable, and honestly, the guilt tripping has been non-stop. But I still stand by my decision though. I'm not in a position to hand over that kind of money, and I'm really focused on my own financial stability. I've been working hard to pay off debt and save up for my own future goals. That being said, I did offer a compromise. I told her I could contribute in a more reasonable way, like helping with smaller expenses like maybe the decorations, rather than giving her a huge loan. But she was not happy with this and said it wasn't enough. The situation with the family has gotten tense. Some of my relatives, especially on my dad's side, are more understanding of my position, but a lot of others are still on my sister's side. There's been a fair amount of pressure to step up and support her, but I'm honestly holding firm. I also realized that I have some deeper feelings of resentment toward my sister that I had not fully processed yet. Growing up, it always felt like she was the golden child, and I was the one who had to work harder for everything. So the whole situation has just been a reminder of that dynamic. I guess I'm still processing some of that old tension, and it's making the situation feel even more complicated. But in the end, I've decided that I'm not going to let guilt or family pressure dictate my choices. I can't afford the loan that she's asking for, and I don't think it's fair to expect me to compromise my financial goals for her wedding. I've tried to be clear with her, but at this point, I'm just trying to navigate things with as much peace as possible. Okay, honestly, good for you for sticking to what you think is right and refusing to give in to this kind of demand. Anyone, and I mean anyone, trying to be like, wow, you need to give $10,000 to your sister. It's the right thing to do. This is what family does. Like seriously, what are you talking about? The most I would be willing to give is maybe $1,000, if that. But $10,000, that is a huge amount of money. And for the entire family to be like, wow, why can't you just do that? We don't care that you don't have that money. You need to go into debt so that your sister can be happy. Like seriously, that's what they're saying right now. They would rather you have some kind of like financial strain instead of, I don't know, actually making ends meet. Like this whole argument is so irrational, it's not even funny. So no, you're not the jerk for refusing this stupid demand, because your sister and your entire family who are supporting her, in my opinion, are incredibly selfish and very entitled. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My job is disorganized and chaotic, as I'm trying to find my way through this serving job at a restaurant that honestly has no organization, and at this point, I honestly don't know what to do. Here's what happened. To start things off, I am so frustrated and pissed off that I have no one to vent to that would even begin to understand. For starters, I recently stepped down from managing and I'm now back to serving. And this is a large chain that's just a step above Olive Garden. And guys, it's a joke. Tables aren't pre-bussed ever, and then the tables just sit there unless a manager or myself busses them and turns them. Servers just let plates and glasses stack up and then leave them on the table. Also, no servers are using kitchen words like behind, sharp, corner, etc. No one's helping each other out, and no one's filling the ice or running clean plates from the back or filling peppers and vinegars before service. The bartender can't make drinks in a timely fashion. I'm talking 20 minutes to get a bar drink if it's not just a straight pour, and even then it's that long. There's also a list of items from both the bar and the kitchen on the 86 list, and when we run out of something, it's not communicated to the staff. So I'll have a table with calamari and then fire the app. When I go to the kitchen to ask where my app is, I'm told with a shrug, oh, we're out of it. And now I have to go back and tell them that we're out almost 20 minutes later. The guy in the dish pit has literally thrown dishes at me when we still have 30 to 60 minutes of service left, and he refuses to wash any more dishes. We're supposed to just deal with it and stack them somewhere else until he closes the pit and leaves. And then the same freaking guy who does the least amount of work always gets the best section and the best tables. He cherry picks his tables and just moseys along, still not pre-bussing or bussing his own tables. And I'm honestly so over it. I had a 12 top last night and was immediately sat a 6 top and a 2 top. And I thought to myself, this is no big deal, or rather it would have been no big deal if I had a team to work with. Their bar drinks took so long and their food came out looking like garbage for presentation. I take orders and put them in according to seats, so I don't have to auction food. But even the managers just shouted out. Then, because the kitchen staff doesn't communicate, we had simple pasta dishes placed in expo expo way before steaks were even done, so now half the food is old and cold. Oh, and don't even get me started on expo. There is no method to the madness and things just sit up there. People will just take things that they think are theirs while other orders are left sitting there because now we've got to wait for an item to be remade while the rest of the food is sitting there in an open expo where customers can clearly see it. I can work with many different mistakes, but when they happen all at once and all at the same time, I kind of lose it. I was also left nothing on a $400 bill due to things that were out of my control. There's only so much banter and comps one can do because my God, things have definitely changed since the last time I was serving. Wow, that situation sucks. I can't stand having coworkers like that, especially in a restaurant. Like, my God, everybody needs to do their job for things to run smoothly. And when people are being lazy and not doing their share of what they need to do, it literally screws up the entire night. Because pretty soon, if there's no organization, then everything's behind and everybody else is going to suffer. And that is not fair for you in the slightest. You don't deserve that. That honestly is so annoying. So I know if I was in your shoes, I would definitely be looking for another job. There is no way I would ever want to put up with that because having coworkers like that is truly obnoxious. Am I the jerk as the maid of honor for asking the bride of a wedding to give the total cost expected from each bridesmaid? Because right now everything's been very ambiguous, and yet still the cost of this wedding is slowly adding up. Because at this point, I'm worried that people won't be able to afford anything for this wedding. Okay, so I am the maid of honor for a friend getting married. She is pretty young at the age of 24, and so are the bridesmaids. Most of us are in the broke postgraduate mindset, except for one of the bridesmaids, who is about 10 years older and another who is still a student. When asking us to be in the wedding party, the bride made it clear that she expected bridesmaids to pay for our dresses, alterations, and to be present for the rehearsal and the wedding. She offered to either pay for makeup or hair for me, as I was the maid of honor, but said the bridesmaids can pay extra to have those done the day of the event. For the bachelorette, she was clear about what she wanted, which was a beach house in Rhode Island. We are splitting the cost for the rental, which is about $300 each, and I made a budget of about $250 for groceries, split amongst 5 of us for the 2 days. And this does not include going out to a bar or dinner during that trip, which I estimate would be an additional $75 per person. While it is expensive, I really do want this weekend to be lots of fun, and I think we can keep it on the cheaper side if we're smart about our groceries and anything else. Now, there was no budget going in, so I've been figuring out how to do a more cost-efficient but fun event, and the costs are definitely adding up. However, with the bridal shower, there is again no budget. I am hosting, and the bride sent over a list of about 30 people who will be attending. I have no idea what the budget is for this event, and I'm having difficulty laying out the run of the food and the events and the decorations, as well as the party gifts for everybody. The other bridesmaids have expressed concern about the surmounting cost of everything, and I honestly do agree. Things are adding up from the initial expectation of paying for the dress and the alterations. So I spoke with the bride about this, and she said that she thought that we could just come up with the most cost-effective way to manage these events. But I countered and said that it would be easiest for the bridesmaids to understand the total cost that they were expected to incur for the wedding, including dresses, alterations, bridal shower, bachelorette, and any incidentals. I politely argue that we need to have an idea of what's expected of us, and it's not on us to create and manage the budget for her wedding. We're all happy to contribute and all want this to be fun and successful. She has said that it's normal for bridesmaids to pay a lot for weddings, but I reminded her that we are all on the younger side, and that's something to be mindful of. I have been trying to mitigate any tensions between the bridesmaid and the bride, just to keep the stress off of her and handle the conversations with the bridesmaids. I asked for a clear spreadsheet of our expected expenses so I can speak with the bridesmaids and make a plan. And with the wedding 5 months away, I think this is really important. So am I the jerk for arguing with the bride about this? Is it normal for bridesmaids to not know what's expected of them? I don't know much about weddings or being the maid of honor, and I want her to have an amazing wedding without breaking the bank for the other ladies. What should I do? No, I don't think you're the jerk at all. I think what you're doing is totally reasonable, and I think it's really important to set some kind of expectation. So for the bride to be like, okay, this is what I want, and then never giving any kind of financial expectation from everybody involved, that's just annoying, and that's only going to cause conflict. So no, you're not the jerk for trying to figure something out, because I think what you're asking, in my opinion, is completely reasonable. Am I the jerk for asking my roommate to shop more frequently, all because there's no space in the freezer for other people to use? Because now they're being incredibly annoying, and at this point, I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I'm a 19-year-old female in college, living with 4 other roommates, and we all pretty much eat microwave food that goes in our freezer. Now, we have a very small freezer, and for the first half of the year, it wasn't that bad to fit stuff in it because our 4th roommate wasn't really using it, and we all shopped dropped lightly. Recently though, I've noticed that our freezer is literally packed to the point that I can't even close it, and I've noticed that it's food that they all kept in there for weeks without eating it. I have exactly one thing in there, and it barely takes up any room. For perspective, said roommate just went out and bought food for the next 2 weeks, literally taking up all of the space. I texted the group chat and asked them to reorganize and consider other people's space when shopping for groceries, and for them to eat them within the next week. My roommate said, "I'll eat half of my stuff in the next week," and then just brushed off my request and just said that it'll be hard to fit stuff no matter what because it's a small space for 4 people. That felt very dismissive and like she's refusing to come up with a solution that's fair for everybody. So I texted back and asked point blank if she would shop for groceries for the next week instead of 2 weeks from now on. She then sent back a pretty angry sounding text saying that she shops when she wants to and doesn't feel like going to the same store every week. And at this point, I have no idea what to do. I really want space for the freezer. I talked to my pops about this and he said either you buy fresh food or put your foot down with them because they're being selfish. I'm going to try and buy fresh food to put elsewhere, but it's hard for me to eat them before they expire so quickly. Being a college student, I really just want quick, easy meals. So did I push it too far? Am I the jerk in this situation? Because right now I'm honestly so frustrated. No, of course you're not being the jerk. These people are being unreasonable. They're taking up the entire freezer space and it's leaving you on the lurch and it's leaving you screwed out of any space at all. Like, how is that fair for you? They seriously are shopping for 2 weeks and they're trying to be like, well, I don't want to go to the same store all the time. And it's like, dude, you're taking up all the room. And it really would not be fair for you to buy your own like fridge and freezer, like some kind of mini fridge for you to keep all your stuff cold, because that sucks. That really is not something you should have to do. So the fact that they want to try and be like, well, I'm just not going to make any room for you, that is so unfair and I would not put up with that for a second. So truly, I don't blame you for speaking up because the way this roommate's acting, in my opinion, is incredibly selfish. Am I the jerk for finding my neighbor over a used diaper in our condo driveway, as I am absolutely sure that she's the one that left it there, thus violating our HOA guidelines? Because right now, I really don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, to start things out, I live in a 4-unit condo building and I own half of it. My neighbor moved in about a year ago and recently had a baby. And this is where the situation comes into play. A used diaper ended up in our shared driveway. Since no one else in the building has kids or wears diapers, you know, since we're all over the age of 30 except for her baby, I messaged her to ask her to remove it. On the first day, I sent her a polite message asking if she could remove the diaper, but she denied it was hers and told me to prove it. On the second day, still nothing changed. So I followed up with a notice reminding her of the building's bylaws and rules regarding common areas. And I also mentioned that non-compliance could lead to fines. On the third day, there was still no action. So I sent her a fine notice via PDF explaining that all fines would be absolved if the diaper was removed. And this led to the following text exchange. I sent the PDF with a notice and I said, please see above. Refer to bylaws for any questions about the deadline. She responded by saying, well, I'll just be ignoring that. So you pretend that I have to pick up a dirty diaper that you are just assuming is mine, with no evidence, by the way, and I would be leaving a newborn inside my house with no supervision just to do what you want to do. You definitely don't have any common sense. I responded by saying, please just see the notice and consequences of not complying. She said back to me, well, you have no emotional empathy at all. You're the worst person that I know. You don't care about other situations. You don't even think that I'm just by myself with a newborn with postpartum depression. You just care about your stupid rules. I responded back by saying, I understand that you're going through a lot, but I need to set clear boundaries as described in the bylaws. The expectations outlined in the notice apply to everyone and must be fulfilled. Now, to add some context, I lug the trash bins to the curb for the whole building every week without complaint, even when they're overfilled. If I go out of town, no one else will do it, and the bins are overflowing when I return. So I don't think it's unreasonable to expect her to clean up after her baby, especially in shared spaces. I feel like I'm being taken advantage of here. It's not my job to remove her baby's waste from the common areas. I sympathize with her situation as a new mom, but I don't feel like that excuse leaving a dirty diaper in the driveway or refusing to address it. I also feel like she's deflecting responsibility by making it about empathy rather than the diaper. So seriously, am I the jerk for issuing a fine over this? I genuinely feel I've been reasonable, but honestly, I'm kind of second guessing myself. What should I do? Okay, I don't think you're totally the jerk, but I think in the future you need definitive proof that she's the one leaving a diaper in the driveway. Because from the sounds of it, you don't really have anything other than like making some kind of assumption. What if someone dropped that off as they were driving by or something like that? Or maybe like a raccoon dragged that out of the trash from another neighbor and brought it to that driveway. I know you're making the assumption that yes, this is the diaper of this lady's kid, but also you don't have like video evidence or anything like that. So there might be a situation where it's like, okay, maybe this lady is telling the truth, even if she's being rude about it. But for the record, just so we're all clear, I think she's absolutely lying. I think that diaper absolutely belonged to her kid, and she could take 2 seconds to put her kid in the crib, run out there, pick it up, and throw it away properly, and it really would be no problem, and she would avoid a fine. But without some kind of like definitive, yes, it was you kind of proof, like video evidence or picture evidence, for me, it just wouldn't be enough to justify that kind of fine to be placed upon them. So no, I don't think you're the jerk for trying to issue a fine, but also in the future, maybe set up some kind of way so you can get absolute proof that she's the one that did it, especially if this happens in the future. Am I the jerk for refusing to move for my wife's job promotion, all while we're in the middle of getting divorced? Because right now she is very pissed off and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So my wife and I are currently going through a divorce, and together we have 3-year-old twins. We also both work remotely. My employer is local, but I convinced them to let me work remotely full-time, while my wife works remotely for an organization based in New Jersey. A few years ago, we intentionally pursued careers that would allow us to work from home just so we could make childcare just a bit easier. My wife travels for work several days each month, sometimes for a week or more, and during those times, I take care of the kids on my own. I have no issue with this, and I'm happy to step in as the primary caregiver when needed. Recently, my wife informed me that she has an opportunity for a promotion, but it requires us to relocate to either New Jersey or Pennsylvania. We currently live in Texas, where much of our support system is based. My parents, who live nearby, have been a huge help, often babysitting the kids overnight so that my wife and I could travel for leisure. Most of our friends are here, and I'm very close to my family while my wife isn't as close to hers. They all live in different states. Before we started the divorce process, I mentioned that I was open to the idea of moving if it ever became necessary, but we never made any firm decisions about it. Now that the opportunity is here, I've expressed that I don't want to move given that we're divorcing. I'm not willing to leave Texas, as I value the support system we've built here, and I don't want to be far from my family, especially given that custody is very important to me. I can't imagine being away from the kids, especially after everything we've been through. Financially, she earns significantly more than I do, although we both have high incomes. The promotion would provide her with a generous raise and a relocation package, which would offset the higher cost of living in New Jersey or Pennsylvania. If we moved, it would actually result in a significant decrease in my take-home pay, as I wouldn't have the same relocation benefits and the cost of living would be much higher. I would essentially be taking a financial hit to make this move. My wife is upset and feels that my decision is going to hinder her career advancement. Our divorce has been relatively amicable up until this point, but this has created a lot of tension, and I'm worried it will make things more contentious moving forward. So seriously, am I the jerk for refusing to move for her job promotion during our divorce? Because right now I don't know what to do. Okay, maybe I'm alone on this, but I really don't think you're the jerk. It really sounds like you want stability for your kids and for your life in general, and that, in my opinion, is really important, especially for twins who are growing up. And sure, everything's amicable and it's probably working out, and I think you probably would have been willing to move for your wife, but guess what? This person's about to become your ex-wife. You guys are getting divorced for one reason or another, and I think it's just not fair for the kids to be ripped up and moved away in such a manner. But that's just my opinion. What do you think? Do you think the original poster is right, or do you think they're being unreasonable for not being willing to move? Leave a comment down below. We would love to hear what you have to say. An entitled jerk literally steals my property right in front of me after he's invited over to my house for a Dungeons & Dragons session. Because the way the guy did this was completely obnoxious and so obvious, as he literally took no precaution to try and hide the fact that he was stealing from me, but instead just blatantly stole it and acted like nothing was wrong. And I've got to be honest, I'm kind of blown away by this, and I seriously don't know what to do from here. Welcome back to Am I the Jerk, the only place where you can find out just how bad of an idea it is to invite strangers over to your house, because if you're not careful, they might just try to rob you blind. Subscribe to Am I the Jerk if you haven't already, and click the bell to turn on notifications. Let's get started. Okay, so 2 days ago, I hosted a one-shot session of Dungeons & Dragons at my house, which in hindsight was a genuinely terrible idea, because I didn't even know any of the people that I invited. All of my friends were busy, and I really wanted to do something this weekend, so I posted in a local Dungeons & Dragons group mentioning that I was looking for players. Now, 3 people answered, including the waste of oxygen I'm going to refer to as Benjamin. He's around 18 years old, maybe 17. Meanwhile, the rest of us are in our 20s. Now, Benjamin seemed like a completely normal person, if anything, just really nerdy about anime and manga. When we all first entered my room, he zoned in on my Berserk volumes, particularly on the latest, which is a version with a variant cover. He mentioned that he couldn't find it anywhere, which I find odd because this stuff can always be found online for very cheap. Now, nothing much really happened during the session itself. We all had fun fun and Benjamin was actually a pretty decent player. The real issues came up afterwards. The other two people left while Benjamin and I chatted for a few more minutes. He was positioned with his back to my bookshelf and I was sitting right in front of him. And that's when I looked to the side and I noticed the volume from earlier was missing. And as I instinctively approached the shelf, I noticed a suspiciously shaped lump on his back. And yeah, I think you can guess exactly where this is going. Well, what do you know? I lifted his shirt and I found my volume halfway down his pants. Now, I once again want to underline that this man stole a book that you can find in any bookstore and online for like maybe around $5. I could even almost understand if he tried to steal some like rare collector's item, but this very much was not that. I immediately pulled it out and I was like, dude, what are you doing? And he just, well, I don't know how to describe it, but he just stood there. He just continued talking about whatever discussion we were having moments earlier, completely ignoring the fact that I just caught him red-handed trying to steal from me. At that point, I got mad and I bluntly told him to pack up his crap. I then watched him shove all of his possessions in his backpack and close it, all while he was still talking, by the way. And then I went to leave the room. I then turned around and he was still fiddling with his backpack again. And it's at this point I wisened up, I zipped it back open and I looked inside. And right there, I find multiple figurines that I keep like right beside the volumes. Besides that, all the stuff in the backpack was his. Now at this point, I'm literally just stunned. He had seriously just taken the half second I was looking elsewhere to try his luck and steal something else. I raised his shirt again to check if he had taken anything else, but thankfully there was nothing. He was wearing tight jeans, so he couldn't possibly have hidden anything in his pants fully either. And during all of this, he's still yapping. Not once during this entire sequence of events did he appear to acknowledge what was happening, nor did he ever pause in the first place. And I don't know, I'm still trying to figure out if he's just in denial or if it's some kind of like diversion tactic. I'm honestly kind of blown away. I then dragged him to the door by the arm, and for a second, he finally stopped talking. Maybe he wanted to finally talk about what he just did. Perhaps he wanted to apologize. But no, he asked me if I was going to host another session next week. I then shoved him out the door and I told him to get lost. Like the genuine gall of this jerk. I genuinely just can't tell if he's audacious or just very stupid. Because how someone like this even exists in the first place is truly beyond me. Oh my gosh, I hate thieves. If you've watched this channel for a long time, you know this about me, but dude, I cannot stand people who steal. So this is like, oh my God, my hair would be on fire, bro. I don't know if Benjamin would make it out of my house alive if I caught them actively stealing stuff, especially after I turn away for the first time when I, oh, that's right, caught him stealing my stuff. Like this guy stuffed a book down his pants and then waited for you to turn around and then was like, oh, let me get these figurines too. Like, what are you doing? So like, seriously, if I was in the original poster shoes, I would be posting about this pretty much everywhere because dude, other people need to know about this. Oh, and by the way, let's just like backtrack a little bit. What are you doing letting random people in your house? I am kind of blown away that you put out like an ad for people and you're like, hey, come over to my house and let's play Dungeons and Dragons. Like, bro, I would rather just wait for friends to be available and play with them than a bunch of strangers I don't even know, because this is what you get. You get a Benjamin who's coming into your house and they're like, ooh, I'm gonna steal some stuff. So yeah, dude, I would go crazy if someone tried that with me. I don't think I would not be in jail. Let me just put it that way, because that's some crazy behavior. This guy clearly did not care at all about your property, nor did he have like any remorse. Like he just did not apologize at all. Instead, he asked like, oh, you gonna have another session? I want to steal some more. Like that's basically what he said, and that is really disturbing, and hopefully you don't have to deal with him ever again. If you like Am I the Jerk and what we're doing over here, please check out Am I the Genius. It's going to be linked down below in the description. Just click and go ahead and subscribe to them. And also, if you have your own stories you want to submit, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you want to submit your own stories. We're reading them all the time and we're picking out the best ones, so trust me, we would love to hear what you have to say. An entitled Karen made a waiter's life miserable for 20 minutes straight, but the second I spoke up and said something about it was the moment I realized that was the biggest mistake of my entire life, as this Karen freaked out on me in a way I honestly didn't expect and in a way that I don't think I'll forget anytime soon. Here's what happened. Okay, so this happened a few weeks ago, and oh my God, I still think about it sometimes. I was sitting alone at a cafe having lunch, just minding my own business. At the table next to me, there was a woman with a kid who was maybe like 8 years old, if I'm guessing. Now, the kid seemed fine, honestly, pretty quiet if anything. It was the mom though that was the real problem of this situation. From the moment the waiter came over, she was in full performance mode. The kid ordered a grilled cheese sandwich, and this was simple enough. The waiter brings it out, the kid takes one look at it, and the mom immediately flags the waiter down. He doesn't like when the bread is too toasted. The waiter then apologizes and takes it back. A new one comes out, but the mom then says, actually, can you guys cut it diagonally? He prefers that. The waiter does that, and guess what? The kid hasn't even touched it yet. The mom mom then leans in, inspects it like she's checking for contraband, then looks up and says, "Is this a different bread than last time? It looks really different." Now, the waiter, who at this point has been standing at their table for a combined 15 minutes across multiple trips, very calmly said that it was the same bread. The mom then made this face like he had just insulted her entire family line and said very loudly, "I just want my son to have a good experience. Is that too much to ask?" Now, holy crap, that was the thing that got me. The kid was fine. He was playing with a straw and not paying attention to any of it. I then leaned over and I said something like, "The waiter's been really patient. Maybe give him a break." I kept my voice calm and I wasn't trying to start anything. Well, she turned to me so fast I actually flinched. Suddenly, I was a stranger who had no idea what it's like to raise a child, and she was going to speak to the manager about the hostile environment. Now, she did go to speak to the manager about me, and I got a very awkward apology from the manager who clearly just wanted everyone to calm down. Now, the waiter did catch my eye on the way out and mouthed the words "thank you," so I'm kind of choosing to focus on that instead of this entitled Karen freaking out on me in a way that honestly was a little alarming. Holy crap, I would never want to be in this situation. First off, sitting next to someone acting like this to a waiter who clearly is doing the best job they can is already awkward enough. So to then speak up and have it all just backfire on you completely is horrifying. It would be like, dude, can you just move me at this point? Can I sit literally anywhere else? This is a nightmare. This is my own personal circle of Hades that I don't want to live through. And it's especially true because the original poster is right. That kid doesn't care. Literally, he's like, okay, cool, grilled cheese. It's not like he's the one picking it apart being like, "This isn't good enough. This is the wrong kind of bread. I can't believe you did this." Like, holy crap, just chill out, lady. It's not that serious. I'm just trying to eat lunch at a cafe. Can you not act crazy for like 10 minutes? So yeah, that sounds like a terrible experience and I would not want to deal with that. My entitled, annoying neighbor literally refuses to listen to me when I tell her to please stop using my patio as overflow for any guests she has over at her house. Because after dealing with this multiple times and telling her to please stop it, she's not only refusing to listen to me, but she's also saying that I'm being hostile towards her just because I've confronted her and said, "No, you can't do this anymore," putting me in a weird pickle that honestly I never expected. Here's what's going on. Okay, so I live in a small apartment complex with those ground floor patios that are technically private, but still very visible from the courtyard. Mine is tiny with just 2 chairs, a plant shelf, and 1 storage bench where I keep gardening stuff, a blanket, and my shoes if they are muddy. Since spring started, my next door neighbor has been having people over a lot more, which is totally fine. Like, that's none of my business. What became my business was that her guests kept ending up on my patio because apparently there was more room there, and specifically on my storage bench. Now, at first, I really thought it was like a one-time thing, but it just kept happening over and over again. I would come home and find half-empty cans on my little table, my bench scooted 3 feet over, and once my cushion on the ground because somebody had apparently decided it looked better there. I asked her twice to please stop using my patio furniture, but she just laughed at me and said I was being kind of intense because, according to her, it's all basically one shared outdoor area visually. Well, last weekend, I came home and guess what? There were 3 people sitting on my bench while she was inside grabbing drinks. One of them actually apologized and said, "Oh, she told us to sit there. She said it was fine." So the next morning, I bought a simple outdoor lock for the bench lid and I looped it through the frame so it cannot be moved without undoing it. And sure, it looks a little bit ridiculous. I know, I totally get it. But now she's offended because she says that I made the courtyard look hostile and embarrassed her in front of company. Now, a couple of my neighbors think that I could have handled this a little less petty, but I honestly got tired of my patio turning into overflow seating for people I don't even know that well. So with all things in mind, am I the jerk in any way, shape, or form? Because right now my neighbor seems a little pissed off. Oh man, no, you're not the jerk at all. This was exhausting. How do people not understand that you can't just go through people's stuff like that and move stuff around that isn't yours, dude? That would never even cross my mind to even touch someone else's stuff. Unless you're like invading my space with your crap, which wasn't the case here. But it's like, dude, just don't touch my stuff, man. Like, what are we doing? It's especially obnoxious when your neighbor's like, "Oh wow, you're making things really hostile right now." And it's like, okay, let's think about this for a second, lady. What's being more hostile? You rearranging my furniture and moving my stuff around? Or me asking you multiple times, "Please stop touching my stuff," and then you turn around and just keep doing it anyways, laughing me off and being like, "Wow, you're being really intense right now." That would be way more hostile than me just locking my stuff up so you can't move it anymore. So no, the original poster's not the jerk. Their neighbor is a complete idiot. They're really trying to like twist this against them in a way that is completely unfair because what they're asking is not unreasonable in the slightest. This next story is proof that if you're rich, you should probably keep that to yourself, as the original poster spills the beans to his girlfriend, who then immediately tells her parents, putting them in some hot water they really did not expect. Let's get started. Okay, for a bit of context about myself, I had a very rich and powerful dad who passed away when I was a child and left me with a lot of money. Well, after he passed away, all of his money-grubbing friends tried to dig their claws into me. They would try to manipulate me into signing on to things with them knowing I had money that could help them out, and I was just way too young to know what I should say no to. It got so bad that my mom ended up having to get me a personal lawyer and an advisor. Now, I never felt like I deserved the money I got because I didn't, and I felt like it brought so much evil into my life that I was not prepared for. So I made the decision to not touch it unless I absolutely needed it. We're talking stuff like school or medical needs or stuff like that. I've donated tens of millions, and at this point about half of it, to different causes that I know my dad would have cared about and what I care about. And oh my gosh, I want to jump in as the narrator real quick. Holy crap, this guy is like really rich. Not even like, oh, I got a little bit of money. No, this guy has like millions of dollars. That is insane. Anyways, back to the story. So needless to say, I don't tell anybody that I have this money after seeing what it does to people's behavior and how for a lot of people, they either see me as less or try to use me for their own gain. The only people that know are my mother and my childhood best friend. But now I've been dating my girlfriend for about 2 years, and I've got to say, she's like the first person I've really taken seriously as a candidate for my future. So about 6 months ago, I told her about my situation. I told her to not tell anybody though, not her parents, her friends, literally nobody. I was entrusting her with this because it's a relevant part of me, and it could potentially affect our future. Well, jump cut to a couple of months ago, and that's when things started getting weird. It was here that I noticed her parents were acting different around me. They were trying to mentor me and get closer to me. And at first, I really thought it was just us getting closer together, like them seeing me as a kind of son. But then I overheard my girlfriend talking to her parents on speakerphone, and they mentioned my trust and what I should be doing with it. And my God, I feel absolutely betrayed. And now I feel like I just don't trust her. I know to some people this might not seem like a big deal, but to me it always was. Because I just got so sick of people trying to use me or see what I've accomplished as less because I had money to start. After that, I started thinking back, and then I remembered her friend making a comment when I wouldn't pay for everybody's Uber. She said, "Oh, come on, you can afford it." I asked my girlfriend about it then, and she said, "Oh, she probably just assumes you have money because you have a nice car." Anyways, I'm trying to stay unbiased, and I really need your guys' help. I know a lot of this is probably stemming from my own ego, insecurity, and past experiences, but I'm still very upset that she betrayed my trust. So seriously, how do I move on from this? Because I really don't know what to do right now. Okay, dude, I gotta be honest with you, it does not sound like your girlfriend is loyal at all. Holy crap, she heard about this information and said, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna tell everybody," and then jumped to her mom and said, "He's loaded, he has so much money." And the original poster is like totally right. People turn into like vipers when they find out that someone is rich, like just slithering around, waiting for the moment to strike and be like, "Ooh, can I have some money?" And it's like, no, dude, this was such a good relationship. Why are you screwing it up? Now, I gotta be honest with you, I have no idea how to handle this situation. I've never had a ton of money, and I've never been in this situation of telling someone that I've got a ton of money. So this really is super foreign territory in my opinion. But I think if I were to like put myself in your shoes and imagine what it would be like if I really had this much experience of people trying to use me in the past based off of a wealth of money that I don't think I deserve, then yeah, this would be like a huge deal breaker for me. I would be pissed beyond description, dude. There's no way I would be okay with this. And the part that really doesn't settle well with me, like this is the part that I think really is alarming. It's the fact that she lied to you. She said, "Oh yeah, my mom just thinks you're rich because of your car." Not because I blabbed and told her everything, but it's like, dude, you heard her talk about it on the phone. Like she is just straight up lying to you, and that is so not okay, because this could be about anything. You could have told her a deep dark secret and said, "Hey, don't tell anybody, especially not your parents." But to then find out that she told her parents and then lie to you about it, like dude, that is crazy. That is completely unacceptable and not okay. So in my opinion, if I was in your shoes, I would be breaking up with her. This would be a complete deal breaker. You can't go behind my back like that and share my secrets with people that don't need to know, especially something like this, dude. But leave a comment down below. Would you break up with your boyfriend or your girlfriend if they betrayed your trust like this? If they told their parents that, yeah, my boyfriend and or girlfriend is loaded, they've got millions of dollars in the bank, we're about to be rich. If they did that to you, would that be a deal breaker, or would you find some way to work through it? Leave a comment. We would love to hear what you have to say. Am I the jerk for unplugging the router while my roommate was gaming, all because he wouldn't turn his music down at 1 in the morning on a weekday? Because despite despite the fact that I explained I've got work in the morning, my roommate just literally didn't care, forcing me to take measures that honestly I'm starting to regret if I really think about it. Here's how it happened. Okay, to start things off, I'm a 25-year-old guy just trying to survive the grind of a 9-to-5 job. I also live with this dude who I will call Mark for the sake of the story, who thinks our apartment is his personal nightclub. Now, the events that took place happened on a Tuesday night, and I had a massive presentation the next morning that I needed to be rested up for. Mark was blasting his music in the living room at like 1 o'clock in the morning while screaming into his headset. Now, I went out there twice and I asked him nicely to please chill out so I could get some sleep. But guess what? He just laughed it off and told me to buy earplugs like a boomer. I was literally fuming at this point because I pay half the rent and I expect some basic decency. I then went back to my room, I waited about 10 minutes, and I realized the bass was actually rattling my thin walls. So I walked out to the hallway where the main router is plugged in, and I just yanked the cord right out of the wall. Then I heard a blood-curdling scream from his room a few seconds later. Mark then came storming out looking like he wanted to swing on me. He started yelling that I ruined his rank game and I got him a ban penalty for disconnecting. But I just deadpan looked at him and said, well, maybe you should have turned the music down when I asked. He then called me a massive jerk and hasn't spoken a word to me in 3 days. Now, I gotta say, my friends are split, and some say it was a baller move, but others think I went a bit too far. So I need some help from the internet. Am I really the jerk for like unplugging the router in the way that I did? Because right now I'm not sure what to do. Okay, I've got to be honest. I think what someone said in the comments section is exactly how I feel. You asked him twice, politely at 1 o'clock in the morning on a weekday. Bro, that is more than enough. I would have done the same thing. Let me tell you something. 9-to-5 jobs are a nightmare sometimes. You're busy, you're trying to get stuff done, you're under a deadline, and you're crunched for work. And it's like, bro, I've got a deadline, I've got a presentation, I need to make this happen. So to have a roommate like Mark, who really just does not care about your existence at all, like literally the definition of a waste of space, that would definitely set my teeth on edge. I don't know about you. Because dude, I work a big boy job. I don't have time to stay up till 1 in the morning on a weekday. And it also makes me wonder, like, does Mark have a job? Like, how is he staying up until 1 in the morning doing this kind of stuff? So honestly, I think he did the right thing. It sounds like Mark is unreasonable, and I really think you have every right to quiet hours in your living space. So for Mark to act this way is just not okay in my opinion. My entitled neighbor has started to take advantage of me when it comes to using my visitor spot, because it's become a pretty quick point of contention where they pretty much feel they're entitled to it, despite the fact that I'm giving it to them just to be nice, because now things have escalated and I really just don't know what to do from here. Here's what's happening. Okay, for a bit of context, I live in townhouses on a reservation in Ontario. There's no parking for visitors and each unit gets like 2 spaces in total. I myself have 1 car and my neighbor usually parks 3 cars. I don't have visitors too often, so I don't mind if my neighbors use my visitor spot when I'm not using it. But I do, however, always put my garbage out in my visitor spot so that I don't block my own car in. Well, my neighbors decided that was an invitation for them to park in my main spot. When I pulled up, I saw that I literally had nowhere to park. I knocked on the door and I asked them to please just move their vehicle, and the woman said to me, "Oh, I only parked there because you blocked the other spot with your garbage." I then said to him, "Well, we each get 2 spaces. You're welcome to use my extra space when I'm not using it." But she then began muttering about how she's First Nations and how she's from here, which could only mean that she felt entitled to my space. But just because my husband and I are blonde-haired, blue eyes, doesn't mean that we're not status members of the community, so what she was saying felt a little bit messed up. This interaction also felt extra disrespectful since I did have guests, and they literally had nowhere to park, but regardless, I just left it alone. I've also shoveled their space, brought back their empty garbage bins because I was already grabbing my own after pickup. I've even picked up their McDonald's wrappings and other miscellaneous loose garbage from the front of my unit, and just in general have tried to be a good neighbor. Now, she did end up moving her car, but continued using my space. In fact, this neighbor, or the teenage kids, I mean, I can't really say for sure which one, actually went as far as to shovel their snow over onto my freshly shoveled parking spot and walkway. But after that, I quietly set a boundary with myself that the friendly neighborhood help from my end stops right now. No more silent gestures of kindness, literally nothing. And so with that, I continue putting my garbage in my guest spot on garbage day, but now directly behind her car. She actually came out and moved the garbage into my main spot so that she could leave, but I then just went right back out and moved it back straight away. She then pulled back up several minutes later and looked dumbfounded and just parked for like several minutes, probably deciding what to do. So ever since then, we've been basically playing musical chairs with garbage. So I need to know, am I really the jerk in this situation? Sure, it may be petty and I could walk further and put it somewhere else, I suppose, but the way that they're acting is kind of stupid and kind of pissing me off, and at this point I don't really know what else to do. Okay, this is a classic case of your neighbors are super entitled and they clearly don't understand that you are the reason they have an extra parking spot. Because good lord, are you kidding me right now? They literally are going out of their way to be rude to you. You know, the person who's going out of the way to be like, oh, let me be a good neighbor. You're shoveling their driveway, you're cleaning up their garbage. You're literally doing everything you can on your end just to be like a good normal neighbor. Meanwhile, they're shoveling snow onto your cleared pathway, and it's like, dude, how weird can you get? Like, what are we talking about? I don't care where you're from. This spot is mine, and if I don't want you to have it, then guess what? You're not gonna get it. So no, you're not the jerk for blocking their car or for putting your garbage cans in front of your spot, because if they're gonna wear out their welcome that fast by being super toxic, then in my opinion, you have every right to do whatever you want. My psycho neighbors pour oil all over my car, all because I parked in front of their house. And now I'm trying to get the cops involved to figure this out because I don't know what to do. Welcome back to Am I the Jerk, the only show where you can find out that someone else's neighbors are worse than yours. Subscribe if you haven't already and click the bell to turn on notifications. Let's get started. Okay, to start things out, my neighbor left a note on my car windshield last week telling me to never park where I was ever again. But here's the thing, I was parked on the street. You know, the public street. My neighborhood is horrible when it comes to street parking, by the way, all because of the apartment complexes and the housing crisis leading to an increase of multi-generational homes. Well, anyways, I had no choice last night but to park in that spot again. In fact, I had to move my neighbor's trash cans. And I think you know where this is going. It's all because they use them to block people from parking on the street around their house. Like, they're literally a corner house, so they block like 4 spots in total around their property, which is really messed up. So I move it and I park in front of their house because I have no choice. Well, I then wake up this morning and I find out that someone poured oil all over my vehicle. I then go to file like a police report, but since I didn't witness it or have any video evidence, there's nothing they can do about it. Meanwhile, there are literal drops of oil all over the street, even leading up to their front door. And there are oil containers dumped on the corner of the street where their property resides. So I mean, what can I do? I mean, this has gotten ridiculous. I'd also like to add that I asked who I presume to be the property owner if he knew anything about a note being left on my car parked in front of this property, but he just said he didn't understand me and that, oh, I don't speak English. Now, here's the thing. I have no issues with any of my neighbors in the year that I've lived here, so I don't think that the person responsible for vandalizing my car is anybody other than the person who left the initial note. They didn't even try to speak with me respectfully first, even when I brought up the issue. They just went nuclear because I parked in front of their house and they had to park their vehicle in their driveway. So I guess the moral of this story is to be careful when you park on the street, because dude, some people are absolutely crazy. Okay, I am like furious over this, dude. I can't imagine someone doing that to my car because I think I would lose my mind. First off, you should absolutely take them to like small claims court or something like that and at least present some kind of evidence of like, hey, the oil drippings lead to their house and they've got oil cans in their like garbage around the side. So yeah, it was probably them. Like, it sucks so bad that the cops are like, sorry, can't help you, see ya. But regardless, I think you should do something about it. Like, file some kind of complaint, file some kind of like small claim something. Because dude, it's a public street. They can't sit there and be like, you can't park there. Which, by the way, in case you're wondering, if you do something like this, you're a massive jerk. People are allowed to park their cars next to your house if it's a public street, dude. Like, there's no rule against it, and there's definitely no reason why they shouldn't be allowed to do it. You don't own the street outside of your house. That kind of entitlement is so obnoxious and weird. So personally, if this was me, I would make the biggest stink about this on planet Earth. I would scream it from the rooftops, from social media, and I would make sure the people who live in that house know for a fact that you're pissed and you're gonna do something about it, because this is so bad and it should not be accepted. If you like Am I the Jerk and what we're doing over here, please check out Am I the Genius. It's going to be linked down below in the description. Just click and go ahead and subscribe to them. And also, if you have your own stories you want to submit, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you want to submit your own stories. We're reading them all the time and we're picking out the best ones, so trust me, we would love to hear what you have to say. Am I overreacting for wanting to pull out of a vacation? All because my sister is forcing me and my fiance to sleep on an air mattress that we really don't want to sleep on. Because right now I'm honestly a little pissed off and I don't know if I'm about to ruin everything by backing out or if this really is the best decision for us. Here's basically how it happened. Okay, to start things out, my fiance and I were invited on a vacation by my sister. We were told that her and her husband would pay for the rental property, which was somewhere we had stayed before on a previous trip. Originally, I told her I wasn't sure because even though this trip is still months away, my fiance just started a new job and we didn't really know if he would be able to get time off. I asked her for the exact days and I told her that we really did want to come. come, but we weren't sure and I would let her know. I then received a text from her about 2 days later telling me the house was booked and that her and her husband had talked about it and they wanted us to pay $400. Now this threw me completely off considering they said originally that they would pay for the rental. I then found out that $400 was like 1/3 of the rental's price, but they said that they were going to be cooking at the rental property so they would cover all the food for the week. And then at this point, she informed me that they had already changed the dates by a few days, but I told her that my fiance had already requested off based off the days that she had originally given me, and I wasn't even sure if he would be able to change them and told her that he would have to talk to his boss the next day he worked. Now, thankfully, my fiance was able to get everything settled with his work, and I told my sister we were on board with going, and we even agreed to pay the $400. However, the real issue comes in when she told me that she allowed her 3 kids to pick which rooms they wanted, and with that, there were only 2 left, one of which had twin-size beds and one with a bunk bed. Well, I then told her that I didn't think it was fair that me and my fiance were paying like 1/3 of the rental fee, but would then have to like sleep separately even if it was in the same room, while 2 of her children were sleeping in a king and queen sized bed. She then suggested that we can either push 2 twins together or we could sleep on a blow-up mattress. But either way, she isn't going back on allowing her kids to pick rooms. But right now, I honestly don't know if I would be in the wrong to back out of going because of this or what I should do. My fiance is suggesting that we go on a different trip with just me and him, but the prices being so high for everything, honestly, I just don't even know if we would come up with the extra money in time. So would I be overreacting if I backed out of the trip? Because right now, I really just don't know what to do. Bro, I would back out yesterday. There's no way I'm sleeping on an air mattress, dude. If I'm paying for this rental, you better believe I'm gonna walk in there and be like, kids, stupid children, out of the way. You, move it. I'm sleeping in that king-size bed. Like, it is completely tone deaf for your sister to be like, oh yeah, you can go on this trip and pay for 1/3 of it, but don't you dare try to take one of my kids' rooms from them. They deserve it. And it's like, okay, well, what do we deserve? Oh, that's right, a twin-size bed and an air mattress. Yes, that's the lap of luxury. In my opinion, if you're going on like family trips, the first people to get crappy beds are the kids. Sorry, but guess what? I'm an adult. I've paid my dues. I absolutely am getting a good bed. So for me, I would definitely tell her straight up, hey, I'm not going and I'm taking my money back unless you give me a proper bed to sleep in. Let the kids take the bunk bed. They're more than happy to do that. Their small little nimble bodies will fit in it just fine. But me as an adult man, no, that's not gonna happen. Because your sister's being super selfish and very stingy, and I would not put up with that. My mom is constantly demanding that I text her or send like a voice message twice a day, essentially telling her what I did with my day. But honestly, I just can't find myself to do it because it feels so controlling. And at this point, I really don't know how to handle them. Here's what's going on. Okay, for a bit of context, my mom is controlling, very enmeshing, and in my opinion, absolutely narcissistic. And there are so many behaviors of hers and the entire maternal side of my family that show this with glaring blatancy. But there is so much to get into, and I kind of want to ask for help regarding this particular situation. For a bit of info, I'm 25 years old, I'm a male, and I've lived at home all my life. For a few months now, I've been renting an apartment an hour or so away from home. My dad pays for it as I'm still at university and I've got no job. And since then, my mom has asked me and basically told me that she wants me to text them at least every morning and every evening, basically giving them an update on how my day is going. I've not really stuck with this, and when I don't and go home to visit, she always brings it up and tells me that all she is asking for is for me to update them every day with a short voice message on the family group chat. So today she sent a voice message on the family chat asking how I was and what I'm up to, as well as saying, we haven't heard from you today. And you know what? I've not responded. My dad even texted me a little bit ago saying, your mother wants you to respond to her in the group chat. She asked how you are and what you're up to. Communicate, please. But you know what? I just don't want to. But then I think about how they're going to confront and keep pressuring me, and their excuse is always, well, it only takes a few seconds. Why don't you want to text us every day? And I'm struggling to figure out how to set that boundary and essentially defend myself without being gaslit into feeling like I'm somehow being unreasonable for not wanting to send a 5-second voice note twice a day. I'm feeling stuck, especially because I live in the Middle East and the entire culture around us is like this. And people think it's completely reasonable for parents to expect their children to call or text them daily, even when they're not at home. I know I'm enmeshed with my mother and I hate it, as well as what it's done to me me and my partners or my relationships, but I feel this urge to think of something reasonable enough to essentially justify my desire to not want to text them every single day. But in reality, I just can't. I keep thinking about them responding and saying, well, it only takes a few seconds, so where's the harm done? Or some other crap like that. I just don't know how to respond to it because I can't think of a good answer to their usual arguments, and it just makes me feel even more emasculated, and I'm just so tired of it. So seriously, how do I navigate this? Like, what do I do? Okay, honestly, I totally understand where you're coming from because this really is annoying. I can understand sending a text message like every now and then, but a voice message every morning and night, that would get old after like a week of that, bro. Because like, dude, I don't know about anyone else, but my life is not nearly that interesting. If they were like, what did you do today? I'd be like, I don't know. I sat at home in my underwear and I played some Pokemon. I don't know. It's just, my life is not interesting. Please don't ask me about this again. I don't know. It kind of seems like it's just like cannon fodder for them to be like, oh, you're not doing good in life. I can't believe you. And the worst part about it is I can kind of see them being justified and even like saying stuff like that because guess what? They're paying for your bills, they're paying for the place you're living at, and until you get that figured out, they kind of have their thumb over you in a way that you can't really avoid. So I think to at least an extent, and I know this sucks, it really is not fun, but like, dude, I would probably just play ball as best as I can, at least until I can figure out my own arrangements and then be like, yeah, I don't live under your roof, I'm not gonna do this anymore. Because yeah, this is super obnoxious and I totally understand where you're coming from and they're gonna be weird about it pretty much no matter what. But for me, this is one of those scenarios where it's like, I'm just gonna kind of ride the system as long as I can and see if I can get away with it. Because sure, you could play by their rules, but in reality, you're kind of scheming to get out from underneath them in a way that feels more permanent and in a way that makes you feel more like a man, which I totally understand entirely. My girlfriend literally throws a fit anytime I don't spend the night at her dorm room, as she literally goes into a crazy fit of rage if I ever say no to her about anything. And now at this point, I really want to break up, but I don't know how to do it, and I seriously need some help. Here's what's going on. Okay, so we've been together for almost 3 years, and we both go to the same college. We also live in dorms on opposite sides of campus. Lately, I feel like I don't have any time to myself anymore. If we're both free, she expects me to be with her, especially at night. I like having that time to unwind after a long day, whether it's playing guitar, gaming with friends, or just relaxing, but she always wants me to stay over. And at this point, I basically live in her dorm. I barely sleep well because we're both trying to fit in a twin extra large, and I have to wake up earlier just to go back to my dorm to get ready for class, and oh my god, it's exhausting. The biggest issue is that when I try to say no or even hesitate for a second, she gets really upset with me. It turns into her saying I don't love her or that I hate her, and it just ruins the whole vibe. If I stay in my own dorm, she'll blow up my phone non-stop until I either ignore it or give in and go over. When she gets really stressed out or upset, her reactions are insane. She'll scream and cry and punch her head and say things about hating herself or that I'm being mean. It feels like I'm constantly managing her emotions instead of just being in a relationship. When she's throwing her tantrums, I have genuinely thought about calling the police multiple times just because of how crazy she gets. She's never hit or hurt me physically, but she will throw crap on the ground and just scream and cry to the point that there is literally foam coming out of her mouth, all because she's so mad at me for not caring about her situation. She'll ball up on the ground and repeat phrases saying, I'm not crazy, but like, bro, you definitely do sound crazy. She's also just absolutely incapable of being alone. If I'm not with her and either cook, buy, or go with her to get food, she will just not eat all day long. And oh, by the way, all she eats is cereal. I can take her to a restaurant and she'll take one bite and then eat cereal at home. Or we can go to the dining hall and she'll get cereal there. Like, I honestly haven't seen her eat anything but that in the past few months. And she's always whining about feeling sick and weak, but it's like, oh, I don't know, bro, I wonder why. It's all just so annoying because when it's all fine, she's super loving and happy, which makes me question literally everything that I just saw. But overall, I feel drained, I feel trapped, and I feel like I've lost my independence. I feel more like an emotional caregiver than a boyfriend. We've been together almost 3 years, but I've been seriously thinking about breaking up. I just don't know if I'm overreacting or if this is as unhealthy as it feels. I just don't know when or how to break up, but I have been thinking about it for at least 4 months now. Anyways, I feel like I've just been hating, but I genuinely feel the need to be alone so bad right now, and I don't know how or when to do it. This is my first real relationship, and I don't really know how to go about breaking up with someone so crazy and emotional. So seriously, how do I safely break up with a partner who reacts violently when upset? Because right now, I don't know what to do. Bro, if I was gonna break up with her, I would do that in public and I would do that amongst friends. So there's witnesses to the crazy that's about to go down. Like, I would make sure it's in a place where it's like, okay, there is no misconstruing what's happening. I have witnesses, I have people seeing what's happening, and I've got friends in the area who are like, oh yeah, I saw it go down. I saw you break up with her and say we're no longer gonna be together and nothing happened. Because just think about what you're describing right now, dude. She starts foaming at the mouth because she gets so upset. She's punching herself in the head. She's throwing things around and she's balling up on the ground saying, I'm not crazy. I'm not the crazy one. But it's like, bro, no, you definitely are the crazy one. You are absolutely out of your mind right now. Now, I know for me personally, I would be miserable trying to sleep on a twin bed with someone else. Like, if you turned over, the other person's gonna go flying onto the floor. Like, what are we doing? That's not gonna work at all. So yeah, that's how I would handle this situation because, dude, your girlfriend sounds crazy and hopefully you can get away from her sooner than later. My weird entitled neighbor across the street gave me a garden gnome as a welcome to the neighborhood gift after I moved in. But after he found out that I didn't want to put his weird garden gnome in my front yard, he got pissed off at me and said that I'm breaking tradition in this neighborhood. And now I feel like I've made an enemy of the gnome guy in the neighborhood, and at this point I don't know what to do from here. Here's basically how it all went down. Okay, I want to start off by saying that I only ever go to this subreddit for really stupid things, it seems, and trust me, this situation is really stupid. Hi there, I'm a 26-year-old female and I recently bought my first house in a cute little neighborhood. There's 12 houses on our street, there's no homeowners association, there's no rules about lawn design, and the only rule is that the roofs cannot be black. So I think to myself, okay, cool, whatever. Well, my neighbor, we'll call him Mr. Thomas for the sake of the story, who lives right across the street, has his garden stuffed, and I really mean stuffed, with garden gnomes. They're literally everywhere. They climb up the water drain, they're on the porch, on the grass, it's a whole thing. It's definitely not my style, but fine, I don't care that much. I moved in the first week of March, and the day after, Mr. Thomas came to say hello. He introduced himself, and he brought me a garden gnome as a welcome gift. And I just thought, oh my god, this thing is hideous. But I did thank him, and then I put it in the shed after he left. The following day, I brought all my neighbors some self-made cookies, and I even brought some over to Mr. Thomas and his wife, and they seemed really happy about it. Well, 2 or 3 days later, I was walking my dog, and Mr. Thomas stopped me, and it's here that he looked at me and asked me why I hadn't put up my garden gnome in my front yard yet. Now, I didn't tell him that I hated the gnome, but I just told him that I had something else in mind for my garden, which I just hadn't really gotten around to yet, which is really true. And the gnome was doing a very formidable job of guarding my tools in the shed. Now, I thought this was a witty comment, but he really got upset when I said that. He then got snappy with me and told me, I've been living on this street for 30 years, and every neighbor gets a gnome as a welcome gift, and every neighbor puts them in the front yard. Now, I gotta be honest, I had not really paid it any mind up until like that point. But once he mentioned it, yeah, I noticed that there was a garden gnome in front of every yard. He then mentioned how it's a tradition and everybody's gotta do it. I then asked him if he wanted the gnome back, if he didn't like where I put it, but he said no. So I just calmly told him that I most likely wasn't gonna put the gnome on my front lawn, and I just thanked him for the gift again, and I wished him a nice day, and I left. Well, ever since, I noticed that a handful of other neighbors have let their gnomes suddenly disappear, and now Mr. Thomas hates me. I get the stink eye every time we spot each other, and the old lady that lives next door told me that he's apparently complaining about me on the regular. I told my friends about this story, and one of them said that I should have just put the gnome in the front yard to make the old man happy. But honestly, am I really the jerk for not doing this? Because I seriously don't know what to make of this. Okay, Mr. Thomas is a weirdo. I'm just gonna say that first and foremost. Listen, if you're gonna give someone a gift, don't be like, you have to put the gnome on your house. Your private property must be invaded by my garden gnomes. It's a tradition, everybody does it. Because I know for a fact if this happened to me, it's like, okay, I'm gonna put him out there, but congratulations, he's gonna have an axe through his head. Or I'm gonna poke him full of holes and like put arrows sticking out of him. Like, if you really want this gnome on my front lawn, congratulations, welcome to Game of Thrones, and this guy's getting executed. Like, I don't know, this is just weird, dude. Is this really a gift, or is this guy like marking his conquest for the neighborhood? Like, you're clearly the last house he can get to have like a gnome on the lawn, and he's like, no, come on, you gotta do it. And I think what he really means when it's like, oh, it's a tradition, what he means is it's my tradition and you need to follow it. But like, no, absolutely not. So no, you're not the jerk, but if you do put that gnome out there, please absolutely do me a favor and deface it in some way. Like, make a spectacle out of it. Do something to really make this guy upset, because this is funny and I think it's so weird for him to get mad about this that for me it would almost be like a welcome mat to make fun of it, because it really is so absurd. My entitled friend wants to come over with her kid and allow him to swim in my pool unsupervised, as she says that I'm paranoid and that I'm just being annoying anytime I tell her that, hey, you need to watch your kid in my pool. And now she's made this into a huge ordeal that honestly has gotten out of hand and put me in a weird situation. Here's basically what's going on. Okay, for a bit of context, I have a pool in my backyard. My friend brings her 10-year-old son over regularly, and he loves swimming. But the issue is my friend expects me to supervise him while she sits inside on her phone. But it's like, dude, I'm not a babysitter. In fact, last weekend, they came over, and within 10 minutes, she was inside making a call. Meanwhile, her son was in the pool alone. I went inside and I told her she needs to watch her kid, and she said, he's 10 years old, he knows how to swim. But I said, I don't care. It's my pool and my liability if something happens. She needs to be out there supervising. She then got annoyed with me and said, oh, you're being paranoid. Nothing is ever gonna happen anyways. But I said, okay, well then she won't mind sitting by the pool instead of on my couch. But she said, oh, I thought we could just hang out while he swims. But I said to her, okay, we can hang out, but by the pool, where we can watch him instead of being inside. She ended up leaving, and now she's apparently telling people that I kicked her out for no reason, that I'm being difficult about sharing my pool. But it's like, dude, I'm not being difficult about sharing. I'm being reasonable about supervision. Kids can drown in minutes, but it's my pool and my insurance. If something happened, I would be responsible. So am I really being unreasonable here? Like, am I the jerk at all? Because I'm really blown away by this and I don't know what to do from here. Yeah, your friend's an idiot, dude. I can say that straight up. She'd rather sit inside on her phone than watch her kid and, oh, I don't know, make sure he lives? Like, what are we doing? And it's parents like this who don't watch their kids who then has to, like, I don't know, reap the rewards of their kid drowning in the pool. Oh, you're just being paranoid. Nothing's gonna happen anyways. You're so annoying. Let's just hang out inside instead. It's like, no, that's not gonna happen. What are we talking about? We're gonna sit outside so your kid doesn't drown in the pool, and then suddenly this is my fault. Because the original poster's 100% right. This would absolutely fall on you. That kid croaks, and then suddenly your best friend is gonna turn against you like a viper, dude. She's gonna absolutely turn around and be like, you weren't watching my kids. This was unsafe. Despite the fact that this genius wanted to stay inside. Like, dude, it is not worth the risk. And even if this 10-year-old knows how to swim and he's a great swimmer, accidents can happen in literally seconds, dude. You could turn around for just a minute and then come back and the worst has happened. So no, you're not the jerk, dude. You're the only sane person in the room. The fact that she's even trying to paint you as a bad guy over this is so weird and toxic. And I know for me, I would just be like, hey, you can't come over and swim anymore. I'm sorry, this is just not working. Especially if she's gonna spread rumors like, dude, are you kidding me right now? You didn't kick her out for no reason. She left on her own because you're like, hey, can you be a responsible parent? Like, imagine storming out of the room over something like that. Like, come on. So yeah, your friend's stupid and she would be better off not coming over probably ever again. My entitled sister is demanding that I hand over my entire savings, otherwise she's gonna lose her house, as she is now actively guilt-tripping me into handing over pretty much everything I've saved up, all because she was irresponsible with her own money. And at this point, I really just don't know what to do. Welcome back to Am I the Jerk, the only show where you can discover that, yeah, sometimes my siblings make terrible financial decisions, and then suddenly it's my fault in some way. Crazy stuff goes down here, so please subscribe to Am I the Jerk and click the bell to turn on notifications. Let's get started. Okay, so my sister and I lost our dad a couple of years ago. He left both of us some money, and I chose to be careful with mine. I've been working, I've been saving, and planning to use it as a down payment for a house and maybe go back to school later. Well, my sister, on the other hand, spent most of her share pretty quickly. She and her husband upgraded their lifestyle with a new car, expensive trips, and home upgrades. Now, I didn't say anything because it was her money, but we've never really been close, especially since she got married. Her husband's always been kind of disrespectful towards me, and even made some rude comments about our dad in the past, which I never fully got over. Recently, things have gone downhill for them financially. Her husband lost his job, and they're now behind on mortgage payments and other bills. My sister has been coming to me more often, venting about how stressed out she is, and at first, I just listened, but then she started hinting that I could help her out, and it's right about here that things went downhill. Eventually, she outright asked me to give her a large portion of my savings to help them catch up and avoid losing their house. She promised that she'd pay me back once things got better, but honestly, I don't see how that would happen anytime soon. So I just straight up told her no. I said I wasn't comfortable risking my financial stability, especially since I've worked hard to build it up and have like plans for my own future. Well, when I said this, she completely broke down, calling me selfish and heartless. She said, oh, you're choosing money over family, and that I'm letting her struggle when I have the means to help her out. She even brought up my nephew, asking me, well, how can you even begin to say no? He's gonna lose his home. My aunt then told me that she understands both sides sides of it, but warned me that this could permanently damage my relationship with my sister if I don't step in. And now my sister keeps texting me, sending pictures of her family, and saying I'm turning my back on them when they really need me the most. And right now, like, I really feel guilty. I feel like I'm failing as a sister and an aunt, but at the same time, I feel like I'd be throwing away everything I've built if I give in. So seriously, am I at fault here? Like, am I the jerk in the slightest for not wanting to hand over my savings to them? Because right now, I feel like I'm stuck in a corner and I just don't know what to do. Okay, this is so obnoxious because your sister is so selfish, dude. Like, seriously, let's think about it. She spent all of her money and was like, let's get a new car, expensive trip, and not save any of it. Like, they clearly didn't plan anything in their life. They literally said, oh, let's spend it all and worry about it later. Well, congratulations, older sister. Later is literally at the doorstep knocking on your door. And your solution to this does not involve me giving over my money, dude. Like, what's happening right now? If your sister really cared about family and financial stability, then she wouldn't be going to you to be like, here, you take my spot and be poor. I can't handle this. Like, bro, I'm sorry that you might be losing your house. I'm sorry that your husband lost his job, but that's not my fault. I'm not responsible for that crap. While you were spending your money, I saved my money. I kept it in a box and I said, no, I'm not spending this. You didn't live your life in an irresponsible manner and then turn to everyone else and be like, it's your fault if you don't help us. Like, even if you make it simpler, like if your sister crashed her car because she was being neglectful and then said, oh, you need to give me your car, otherwise we're gonna hate you forever. It's like, dude, I literally watched you crash your car. Why on earth would I give you mine? Because that's what's gonna happen. She's gonna take your money and she's gonna use it to fix up her life, and then she is never paying you back. I just guarantee it. Like, I can see it right now. She clearly is not responsible. She is completely out of her mind. And the fact that she's trying to be like, wow, you saved your money and now it's time for you to give it to me. Like, no, I don't think so. You're not the jerk here. This is some stupid behavior, and I understand that she's probably desperate, but my God, this is not your fault and it is definitely not your problem. If you like Am I the Jerk and what we're doing over here, please check out Am I the Genius. It's going to be linked down below in the description. Just click and go ahead and subscribe to them. And also, if you have your own stories you want to submit, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you want to submit your own stories. We're reading them all the time and we're picking out the best ones, so trust me, we would love to hear what you have to say. My colleague literally steals my book off my desk and ruins it, bending the spine of the book and the pages in a way that made me take it back immediately. And now there's some drama in the office and I'm wondering if I really am to blame. Here's basically what happened, and yes, I'm still pissed off about this. Okay, I share a workplace with a colleague who sometimes just takes things off of my desk. And honestly, it all started off really small with stuff like a pen or a charger. And each and every time there was a quick apology and a comment like, oh, I'm sorry, we just always share the same space anyways. And sure, I didn't really agree with this, but I just decided to let it go. Well, a few days ago, I noticed a book from my desk was missing. It's not an expensive book, but it means a lot to me. Later on, I saw it sitting on my colleague's desk, with the pages folded and the cover bent. Well, when I saw this, I asked for it back. And it's here that my colleague let out a laugh and said, oh, I'm actually still reading it. And this is where I got really frustrated. So I just walked over there and I picked it up, and I said, hey, do not take my things without asking ever again. Well, things got really quiet after that. Someone else later told me that I made a bigger deal than it needed to be. Now, I keep thinking about how my book looked and how annoyed I felt in that moment, but I also wonder if I came off just a bit too harsh. So am I the jerk for taking my book back in the way that I did? Because I honestly don't know if I went about this in the wrong way. No, you didn't do that wrong. Dude, as someone who loves to read, the second I would have seen that book bent up and like the pages bent, I would have been like, oh, it's on. Like, imagine something collectible of yours that you're like, man, this means a lot to me and it's really something special. And then someone takes it and starts bending it. Like, I don't want to be the selfish child with the toys, but like, these are my toys, don't bend them. If you bend my toys, then I'm gonna bend you. Like, what are we doing? Don't do that. Like, people, we use like pieces of paper or like, I don't know, a small string to mark our place in the book. We don't fold the page like a caveman. What are you doing, bro? So no, you're not the jerk. As someone who loves books and loves reading books and loves my books not looking like they've been bent to pieces like it's coming straight out of the high school library, yeah, you deserve to take the book back any which way you want. And anyone trying to be like, wow, you're making this into a bigger deal than it needs to be, those people suck and they are not your friends, and I would ignore them entirely. Today, I found out that I seriously think I'm dating my stalker. And now I really don't know if I should break up or not, especially after I found a box of photos of me that I've never taken before. As I pretty much discovered that my boyfriend's been following my every move for God knows how long. And now I'm feeling very scared and creeped out, and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, I really don't even know where to start with this, but I just want to say that this isn't a cheating story because I almost wish it was. My boyfriend and I have been together for about a year. He's quiet, he works a lot, he doesn't really use social media, and he doesn't have many friends. And I think he's the kind of person that you would describe as safe. Well, last week he asked me to grab something from a drawer in his room while he was outside, but when I got there, I accidentally opened the wrong one. At first I thought it was junk. I mean, it had old papers, random stuff, nothing really important, but there was a small box underneath everything. Not well hidden, but just not something that you'd notice unless you were actually looking. When I opened the box, inside there were photos, and not just like normal photos. And no, it's not anything illegal before anyone jumps to that conclusion, but these photos were just unsettling. They were all of me, not selfies I sent him, not pictures from my social media. These were taken without me knowing. Different days, different outfits, different places. Some were from outside my job, and one was from what looked like across the street from my house. A couple of them were like inside his car, angled like he was watching me walk somewhere. I don't remember him being there for half of them. Well, after spying this, I decided to put everything back to how I found it. I haven't said anything, and I've been acting completely normal, and he has no idea that I know about this. But the part that's messing with me is that he's still normal about everything. In fact, he's sweet even. Nothing about him has changed. If anything, he's been more affectionate this week. But now, I don't know what to do with this. I don't know if I'm overreacting or if I just found out I'm dating someone I don't actually know at all. I haven't told anyone in my real life because saying it out loud makes it feel real. So seriously, how in the world do I handle this? Because I really don't know what to do. Oh my god, dump him. Oh my god, you're dating a stalker. I just had to say that part out loud, but let me explain. If I found out a girl I was dating had pictures of me from before I even knew about her, I would be running for the hills, bro. First off, yep, I absolutely would steal that box of photos and use it as evidence, but also I would dump this person so fast it's not even funny. Cause this is weird, dude. Like, this guy's trying to act like, oh yeah, nothing's wrong. I've only been following you for God knows how long while you didn't know about it. You know, taking pictures of you outside your house or outside of your work, literally photos of him in the car following you while you're walking. Like, good lord, dude, that makes me want to check my closets and make sure nobody's in there. Hope there's not a monster around the corner. Oh wait, that's my boyfriend. Like, what are we doing, dude? So yeah, you have officially discovered that you are dating your stalker. Congratulations, you didn't know about it beforehand, but guess what? You do now. And I can confidently say I would head for the hills with that box of evidence in hand, because this sounds super sketchy and I just would not take any risks. Am I the jerk for telling my roommate to stop eating my food after she borrowed my eggs for the 5th time? Because right now I'm at my breaking point and I really just don't know how to handle this. Here's what's going on. Okay, so my roommate and I have lived together for about 8 months. We split rent and utilities evenly, but we've always done our own groceries because she's vegan and I'm very much not. For the first few months, it was fine. Like, we literally had no issues. We would occasionally share snacks if one of us offered, but that was about it. But lately, she's been helping herself to my stuff without asking. It started with a bag of coffee and then some cheese and then a whole carton of eggs. I let it slide a couple of times because whatever, it's just eggs. But last week I came home from work craving an omelet and I found my last 3 eggs gone again. I mean, the carton was still in the fridge with just the empty spots sitting there. I texted her and I asked her to please stop taking my food without checking first. She then replied by saying, sorry, you're right. But then yesterday I saw her using my butter, not vegan butter, like my actual dairy butter. So you know what? I went out and I bought a small fridge locker and I put my stuff in it. When she saw it, she said that I was being dramatic and that, oh, it's just food. But it's like, dude, I'm so tired of paying for 2 people's breakfast. So honestly, am I the jerk for locking up my own groceries? Like, have you ever been in this situation before? Because I really feel like I'm going crazy. Okay, dude, I gotta be honest with you. I don't think your roommate is vegan at all. Because if she was, she wouldn't be using butter that's like made of dairy. Like, what are we doing right now? She's also eating eggs. Like, come on now. She's cheating. She's cheating. Officer, that's the one right there. Like, literally, what are we doing? I'm pretty sure you can't have eggs if you're vegan. Like, are you actually a vegan lady? Or are you just saying that to be like, this is my quirky personality? Because if that's the case, it's time to break lease and run. Bro, get out of there. Performative fake vegetarians or vegans are like the most annoying people because it's like, yeah, for the 12th time, I know, I get it, you're vegan. I don't care that much, please. So no, you're not the jerk for locking your food up. Dude, she's stealing from you. She's cosplaying as a vegan and trying to sit there and be like, it's just food. Like, that is super weird, and honestly, you deserve a better roommate. Am I the jerk for not giving an old lady some cookies I was trying to buy? All because these types of cookies were one I've waited all year for. Because right now, I kind of feel bad about it, and I'm not sure if I'm in the wrong. Here's basically how it all went down. So around St. Patrick's Day, Pillsbury releases the Lucky Charms sugar cookie dough with the marshmallows. They're my absolute favorite cookie. And since they only bring them out like once a year, I try to stock up when they're on sale and usually get 1 or 2 packs depending on the promotion or the sale. Well, last year in June, I was at the store and I saw 7 packs of them unpriced in a cooler. I knew they were probably on sale, so I put them all in my basket and I asked a nearby associate if they knew how much they were. So she took a pack and went into the back to find out. Now, across the cooler, there was an old lady who had not really been interested in any of the cookies and only glanced at them as she passed by. She noticed me talking to the associate and asked about what I was doing. And I told her about these cookies and I said, oh, they're usually sold around the holiday. She then came around to my side of the cooler just as the associate came back, but was walking past me and the cookies. Well, the associate then told me they were now under $2, and oh my god, I was so excited. I thanked the associate and I started to walk away. Well, at this point, the woman stops me and asks for some. Now, she is polite, so I just give her one of the packs, but she reaches for another one, and this is where I say, oh, I'm so sorry, but no. I then explain that this is a treat I very rarely get to indulge in, as I don't buy any other types of these cookies that Pillsbury releases. But when I said that, this is where everything kind of exploded in my face. She got very upset and said something along the lines of,
"People like you don't deserve good things. You're very selfish, you know,"
and started telling the people around us what I was doing. And just then, another woman gave me a dirty look, so I hurried out of the aisle with my basket. Now, I told my friend this story recently because I saw the cookies again, and she told me I was inconsiderate and selfish. Because what if the woman wanted those cookies for her grandkids or something like that? What if she was on low income? She said it was big back behavior, and that now some poor people didn't get a tasty luxury all because of me. So seriously, am I the jerk here? Because I'm kind of thinking I did a bad thing here, and I honestly don't know what to do about it. Oh no, you're not the jerk. This is survival of the fittest, baby. If she wanted those cookies, first off, she should have known about them, and second off, she should have grabbed them while she could. And I'm not trying to be heartless or mean, like honestly, that's not what I'm trying to say. But in my opinion, it's all fair game, dude. Like, hey, if she got there first and said, "No, I'm keeping all of it," then guess what? She's keeping all of it. And I think you giving her at least one of those was like, okay, I'm trying to be nice, here you go. But for her to then reach into your basket and be like, "No, I need more." Like, no, dude, keep your grubby, weird, old, decrepit hands away from me. Also, I would not care for a second if she actually turned around and said,
"Look what this person's doing, how dare they? They're stealing the Pillsbury cookie dough, I can't believe them."
I would be like, yeah, I am taking every single one of these and none of you are getting it. It's on sale and I don't care. Because seriously, this ain't a charity, bro. I got here first and I got the price, baby. I'm taking all of that. So no, you're not the jerk. This lady didn't even want this product. And the fact that she's trying to like guilt trip you and be like, "Wow,
this is why we can't have nice things,"
that in my opinion is just the balking of a sore loser, and that is not your problem. Would I be overreacting if I broke up with my girlfriend after she quite literally broke my trust and essentially showed that she doesn't actually like me? Because right now I'm completely blown away by the way she's acting, and it's honestly gotten to a point where I just don't know what to do anymore. Here's what's happening. Okay, so I broke up with my girlfriend last night for what I found on her phone. Now, a few weeks ago, she told me that she had deep dived my phone months ago and didn't tell me. And apparently she found things that upset her, like me telling friends about our arguments, but honestly, there was generally no issue or arguments with us. Now, I really don't take any issue in that. If that's what you need to do to gain trust and be happier, then that's no problem. And so with that, last night I decided to do the same thing, and holy crap was that a mistake. We've been together for almost a year, and now we live together and we work together, which is where we met, and my entire future in my mind has her. Well, on her phone I found out that she's been pregnant for 2 months or something like that, and didn't even bother to tell me about this. And she either had a miscarriage or she got rid of it, if you know what I mean. I mean, I was never told about any of this, and we had baby plans so early on in the relationship. So when I found this out, it hit like a truck. Also, since we work together, there is a customer who used to frequent the shop, and she was really flirty with him, even in front of me. We have had a few small arguments over it, and she promised not to do it anymore. The last argument was 6 months ago, and the fact that her friend calls him her work boyfriend honestly just kind of sets me on edge. She lied and said she didn't know why her friend would say that, and yet he still goes to the shops that she works at and they talk. Well, I straight up just asked him about this like 6 months ago, and he says in fact he doesn't go to her shop, so I knew she was lying. But you know what? I was in love with her, so out of sight, out of mind. On the phone after the last argument we had, she tells her friend that, "Oh, it's not my fault that he's just so sexy. Man, I miss him so much." And this is truly something I just can't forgive. It's not her fault he's attractive, so she flirts and disregards my feelings. He's even flat out called her a flirt and a princess and all this other stuff in front of me because he didn't know that we were together. There are other things too, such as agreeing with me on many things and then talking horribly about me to her terrible friend. Her friend said such horrible words about me on the messages, and she let it happen even when I've done nothing wrong. I have spoken to many people that she knows, including family members, and they all say this friend is trouble. So right now, I kinda need some advice. She was my best friend and my safe place and my future, and I feel like I can't function without her. She was my world, and now I have nothing, like literally literally no one, and I don't want to go back to work for obvious reasons. What should I do? Okay, seriously, first off, I'm so sorry this happened because this is crazy. But you really need to realize that no, she's not your safe space anymore, dude. She literally probably got pregnant with someone else's kid and then got rid of it or it didn't work out. And she's clearly not loyal because look at the way she's acting, dude. She's actively flirting with other guys in front of you. Like, that is crazy, dude. If someone tried that with me, I'd be like, hey, you see that lady over there? That's my girlfriend. I'm not interested in you. Or at the very least, make it painfully obvious that no, I'm not interested. But instead, she's almost like accepting it like, oh my god, he's such a work boyfriend, what do I do? Like, what is this kind of like pick me energy? What are we doing right now? That's weird. So in my opinion, if I was in your shoes, I would start looking for a new job immediately. Like, if you really do live with her and your entire world revolves around her, then dude, you need to start like expanding out. You need to find a new safe space and a new place of security because holy crap, she ain't it, brother. She literally doesn't respect you, and in my opinion, she's like 2 steps away from just blatantly cheating. So yeah, dude, I would start getting my crap in order and get out while I can because this sounds super sketchy and I'm so sorry you're dealing with this. Today, I messed up by kissing my friend because I was 100% sure he was about to kiss me first. And now I feel like I've blown up my friendship with this guy and I just don't know what to do now. Here's what happened. Okay, so this happened 3 days ago and at this point, I want to move to a different country, bro. Okay, so there's this guy in my friend group and we've been friends for like a year and a half and there's honestly not been anything weird, except lately it felt like something kind of shifted, or at least I thought it did. He was texting more, finding reasons to sit next to me, did this thing where he would fix the hood of my jacket when it was like half stuck in my collar, which like seriously, who does that platonically? Like who really? So last Friday, we were at a pregame at our mutual friend's place. It gets late, people leave, and it's just me and him out on the couch. We're sitting close, we're talking about nothing, and he suddenly gets this look on his face. It's kind of soft, kind of serious, where he's leaning slightly and suddenly goes quiet mid-sentence. And I've never been more sure of anything in my life. So in that moment, I kissed him. But guess what? He didn't kiss me back. It's not like he pushed me away, but instead, he just froze. Then he pulled back a little and did the sharp exhale and said, oh. 1 syllable. Just a single O came out of his mouth. And my god, I wanted to dissolve into the couch cushions and become part of the furniture forever. It turns out that he was about to tell me that he likes me as a friend. He actually wanted my advice and was working up the nerve. Like that was the look he had on his face. That was the quiet, expected like feeling he had going on. He was nervous talking about another woman. Well, I had to sit there for another 45 minutes because I couldn't leave without making it weirder. We then pretended to watch something on his phone and my god, I could like seriously, I don't even know what it was. I was not processing visual information at this point. He then texted me the next day and was like, hey, are you okay? And I just said to him, yeah, it's fine. No, it's totally okay. And you know what? I have not opened anything since. I have to see him Friday in the same friend group because they will be there. And honestly, right now, I am not okay. Oh my god, I'm so sorry, dude. This is horrifying. This literally is my worst nightmare, I think, of all time, is like reading the room wrong and being like, oh, I kissed her and she didn't like it. Crap. Now I've just completely dropped a grenade on our friendship and it's over. Like, pack it up, people. There's radiation in the area and I just screwed everything up. But like, all jokes aside, dude, you should absolutely talk to him and like try to at least discuss it. I know the thought of that is probably like, oh, I'd rather play in traffic, but like, dude, you never know. You could just explain like, hey, it was spur of the moment, you thought you were acting on something that he was giving off, and then if you really do like him, then be like, and I like you, and we should date if you want to. And if he says no, then just leave it at that. But yeah, I think ignoring the elephant in the room is just gonna make things worse, in my opinion, because otherwise there's just gonna be this like weird tension between the two of you, and that I think is gonna make things worse for the entire friend group. But regardless, this is hilarious. I'm sorry that it happened, don't get me wrong, but oh my god, this is funny. And hopefully it all works out because yeah, this is a rough situation, buddy. My mother-in-law pretty much decided right there on the spot that me being lactose intolerant was not real and that I made it up just to avoid her cooking. And now she is making this into a bigger deal than it needs to be. And right now I'm honestly kind of frustrated and I don't know how to fix this. Welcome back to Am I the Jerk, the only show where you can find out that yes, your food allergies are a lie and your in-laws are going to let you know about it. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications to never miss a video. Let's get started. Okay, so I've been lactose intolerant my entire adult life. This is not like severe severe, like I'm not gonna die or anything like that, but I will spend the next 6 hours feeling absolutely miserable, and I genuinely cannot function. I've managed it fine for years. I just read labels, I ask at restaurants, I keep my own stuff at home. It's not dramatic, it's just a thing that I deal with. Well, my husband's mom has known this ever since we started dating like 4 years ago. She's never once commented on it, and honestly, I thought we were fine. Well, last month we went over for Sunday dinner, and she made this big creamy pasta thing. I asked quietly, just between us, if there was any way she had a portion without the sauce in it, or if there was something else I could eat in general. I said this very calm and very polite. She then looked me dead in the eye and said, "Oh, I think you can handle a little cheese. You always make such a big deal out of nothing." When she said this, I was so caught off guard, I just kind of stared at her. My husband stepped in and said that he'd grab something on the way home for me, and honestly, I was fine with that. I wasn't trying to start anything, but then she announced to the whole table that I was refusing her food and asked everyone if they thought that was rude. Meanwhile, his aunt, his cousin, and his dad are all just sitting there watching. I then said very quietly that I wasn't refusing anything. I just can't eat dairy. And she said to me, "Well, my son eats everything I make just fine," which is like, okay, he's not the one who gets sick from it. We then left early, and she actually ended up texting my husband later on, saying that I had embarrassed her in her own home. He was supportive, but I could tell that he didn't fully know how to handle it, and that part honestly stung more than what she did. The thing that gets me is that she's never been outright mean before. This came out of nowhere, and now I'm wondering what else she's been thinking the whole time and just not saying. What should I do? Okay, raise your hand if dairy gives you a tummy ache, because my hand is literally up even though you can't see it. Bro, I'm not kidding when I say this. Anyone who's like,
Lactose intolerant people are faking it. You can handle a little cheese, right?
it's like, yeah, oh, I'll handle it all right, but you won't see me for a few hours because I'll either be throwing up or it'll be coming out the other end. And yeah, that's a very real reality. Like seriously, unless I take certain medication, like if I have milk, it is like a 20-minute timer before I disappear. I'm like a ghost. I'm gone, I'm on the toilet, and it is miserable. So for the mother-in-law in this story to be like, wow,
okay, you're like really being difficult right now. You're refusing my food. Guys, everybody look over here. This jerk is refusing my food. My son eats my food all the time, but you won't do it.
And it's like, yeah, of course he's gonna eat it, bro. He doesn't get held hostage by dairy depending on what he's eating. And bro, I am not kidding. I literally have to look at packaging all the time. I gotta make sure and be like, okay, is this gonna make me go to the bathroom for the next 30 minutes or am I good to eat it? Oh wait, there's dairy in it. No, not today, Satan. No thank you. Like, do you know how many times this is hit in public and it's like, oh my gosh, where's a bathroom? Suddenly I turn into John Wick being like, I need to find the bathroom right now. Where is it? Just trampling over people to get to the toilet and be like, oh, please let there be a toilet open. So yeah, being lactose intolerant is real and it's such a pain. It's hard. My life is so hard. So for the mother-in-law to be like, wow, this is like basically a phase. That is obnoxious, and it's like, wow, you are really making a big deal out of this. Because the original poster was like, please, let's just keep this private. But instead, the mother-in-law was like determined to misunderstand you. And honestly, in that situation, there's not much you can really do about it. If you like Am I the Jerk and what we're doing over here, please check out Am I the Genius. It's going to be linked down below in the description. Just click and go ahead and subscribe to them. And also, if you have your own stories you want to submit, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you want to submit your own stories. We're reading them all the time and we're picking out the best ones, so trust me, we would love to hear what you have to say. My coworker's entitled mom quite literally walks out of my home studio without paying for my services, putting me in one of the worst situations I've been in a long time because right now I just don't know how to handle this. Here's what's going on. Okay, so I do nails as a side hustle at my apartment to save up for a new car. And let me just say this first and foremost, this is not a charity. My coworker, let's call her Sarah for the sake of the story, asked if I could fit her mom in for a full set of acrylics and some custom art. Now, I usually don't take strangers, but Sarah is okay, so I said sure, why not? Well, the mom shows up 20 minutes late with 2 of Sarah's nephews in tow, and that's just the first of many red flags. Let me tell you something, these kids were a nightmare. They kept touching my professional lamps and trying to open the glitter jars while I was working. The mom just sat there scrolling Facebook, barely glancing at them, while they almost knocked over my acetone. I spent nearly 3 hours on her nails because she wanted this intricate floral design on every single finger. And you know what? I did a really good job as well. When I finished up and I told her that the total was $85, she looked at me like I had 2 heads on my body. She literally laughed and said,
"Oh, honey, Sarah told me that you do this for fun in your spare time."
But I told her, no, this is a business and I have overhead costs for the materials alone. She then hit me with the ultimate entitled line. She opened her purse, showed me a wad of cash, and said,
"Look, the kids start school in 2 weeks. I have to buy uniforms and stationery. You're young. You don't have any real responsibilities yet. You should be happy to help a struggling family."
Now, before I could even process the audacity audacity, she literally just stood up, grabbed the kids, and walked out the door. I was so stunned, I just stood there holding my brush. I then messaged Sarah immediately, and she actually had the nerve to tell me to just let it go, saying that her mom is really stressed about money. But you know what? I'm absolutely fuming. I have her address from the booking form, and at this point, I'm seriously considering sending her a formal invoice via certified mail, just so I can be petty and let her know that I absolutely need to be paid. Okay, I want to say this as seriously as possible. Do it. You should do that today. Do it every week until she pays you. That is absolutely what I would do. Holy crap, she walked out and didn't pay for that. And Sarah's really trying to sit there and be like, oh, just let it go. Come on. She's struggling with money. But it's like, oh, she's struggling and stressed out? Well, then congratulations. Don't schedule a nail appointment, bro. What are we doing? Like, dude, you literally are running a business and this lady's trying to be like, oh, honey, you don't have any responsibilities yet. But it's like, yeah, I was responsible for every flower on your fingernails, lady. Like, what are you talking about? So dude, first off, I would absolutely cut Sarah completely out of my life. I would be like, yeah, I'm never helping you out again. But also, yeah, I absolutely would also be sending invoices. Because bro, she can either pay now or in small claims court, which would absolutely be my next step if she decided not to pay up. Am I overreacting for refusing to give my sister a spare key to my house after she was literally caught red-handed rifling through my stuff on my birthday? Because right now they're trying to make me sound crazy for saying no, and at this point I just don't know what to do with this. Here's basically what happened. I'm a 27-year-old female and I live alone, and I'm pretty private about my space. I don't give spare keys out easily, and the only person who had one was my ex, and I got that back when we broke up last year. Now, my sister has been asking for a spare key just in case for months now, and I've always kind of just like brushed it off because she has a history of not really respecting boundaries. Like, she'll just show up unannounced or go through my fridge and make comments about what I'm eating. Small stuff, but it honestly really adds up. Anyways, last weekend I had a small birthday thing at my place. It was nothing crazy, just like a few friends, some drinks, some takeout, etc. And amongst the people, my sister was invited. Now, at some point in the night, I noticed she was in my bedroom, which really annoyed me because I keep that door closed when I have people over. I went in and guess what? She was literally going through a drawer in my nightstand. I then asked her what she was doing, and she just laughed and said, oh, I was just looking around. Then she made a joke about me definitely hiding something. I then told her to get out, and she acted like I was overreacting and said, we are sisters, it's not that serious. Well, I let it go at the time because I didn't want to make a scene, but I was honestly really uncomfortable. Fast forward to yesterday, and she texts me again asking for a spare key because she says, well, what if something happens and I need to get in to help you? But I straight up told her no, and I brought up what happened at my birthday. Well, she got defensive immediately and said that I was being dramatic and holding a harmless joke over her head, whatever that means. Then she said it's weird that I'm so protective over my space and that I'm acting like a stranger instead of family. But now my mom is involved, and she's saying that I should just give her a key for emergencies and that I'm making a big deal out of nothing. I don't feel like I'm being unreasonable here, like seriously. But now I'm second guessing because they're both acting like I'm the problem. What should I do? Bro, do not give those people a key to your house. Are you serious? This is some weird behavior. Like, why is everybody so obsessed about looking through your stuff? First off, your sister had no business going through your room like that and being like, oh, what are you hiding? What's in here? It's like, oh, I don't know. Maybe I closed it because I didn't want this to happen. Like, why is Dora the Explorer rifling through my stuff looking at, like, I don't know, my medicine or like the flashlight that's in that drawer? Like, there's not a box of gold in there, lady. Get out of my room. What are you doing? This is the equivalent of going through someone's medicine cabinet and being like, oh, wow. You have cream for hemorrhoids. I can't believe that. And it's like, dude, get out of here. What are you doing? It's also really annoying that she's trying to be like, but what if there's an emergency? Like, yeah, what if there's an emergency? Guess what? I'm not going to call you for that. And plus, if there is an emergency and I'm in trouble, you having a key is not going to make a difference. Because guess what? If I'm having an actual emergency, I'm calling like medical services or like the police or something like that. I'm going to dial 911 and figure it out from there if there's actually an emergency. I'm not going to call my sister up and be like, oh, thank God you have that key. Now you can save me. Like, no, dude, I'm going to call the people who can save me, not the lady who's rifling through my stuff like she's Gollum from Lord of the Rings looking for the one true ring. So yeah, if I was in your shoes, no one in this entire family would get a key to my house because they're all acting weird and they're trying to justify this, which is just really weird in my opinion. My entitled aunt quite literally won't stop trying to fix a career that she just doesn't understand, as she is so determined to make me switch jobs, despite the fact that I'm secure and I have a very promising future. And now, after correcting her and telling her to essentially buzz off, she's saying that I'm ungrateful and that, oh yeah, he attacked me, which really doesn't make any sense because honestly, that's not what happened. Here's pretty much what's going on. I'm a 24-year-old male and I work a pretty standard 9-to-5 job as a junior data analyst for a logistics company. It's an average office job. I handle spreadsheets, I track metrics, and I've actually been teaching myself PHP on the side to build an internal portal that automates our onboarding and offboarding. It's a solid path, and I'm proud of the work that I'm doing. The only problem is my aunt, because to her, if you aren't a manager or a director with a company car, you're basically just a temp worker. She has this exhausting habit of intervening in my life based on absolutely zero information. This happens every single day. She will text me links to entry-level sales roles or call me to say that her neighbor's son is a brand ambassador and could get me a job that is actually talking to people. She doesn't ask how my projects are going. She just assumes I'm stuck because she doesn't understand what data analysis is. Well, yesterday afternoon, it finally boiled over. I was just hanging out in the living room trying to get some work done on my laptop while my sister sat nearby scrolling through her phone. She literally walked in, saw my screen, and let out a sigh. She said that she was just talking to a recruiter at my gym earlier and that logistics is a dead sector for staff. So she took the liberty of sending her my LinkedIn. I tried to be nice, but I said to her, "Aunt Sarah, I'm building an automation system for a multi-million-dollar firm. I'm not looking to be an assistant. I'm on a development track." Well, she didn't even blink. She actually walked over and stood between me and the television. She said to me, "You shouldn't be so defensive. You're just a kid, so you don't see the big picture." She also said that I'm just wasting my 20s in a back room. She kept going on for like 10 minutes, lecturing me about potential while my sister just watched the drama unfold. Now, I had had enough, so I closed my laptop, I stood right in front of her, and I said, "If my job is so simple that I should quit it to go show houses for a realtor, then you should be the one who's doing it." Well, the room went dead silent, and she ended up storming out, claiming that I had attacked her for just being a caring aunt. But was she really just being a caring aunt, or am I actually the jerk for snapping at her? Because right now, I honestly don't really know the difference of what's going on here, and I'm seriously just super frustrated. No, your aunt's being super obnoxious. This sucks. Seriously, the fact that she's trying to be like, "Wow, this is a dead-end job. Here, let's show houses instead for a realtor. That should go well." Like, bro, what are we talking about? That's like honestly super annoying, and I would be very pissed off at that. So no, you're not the jerk. Your aunt sounds obnoxious, and she needs to mind her own business. Because she clearly just doesn't understand that you're working a high-profile job that you're probably going to make a lot of money at. And from the sounds of it, it seems like the last thing you need to do is switch careers. My in-laws flew out to see me and my husband after I literally just gave birth, even though I told them to not come over because I'm kind of a mess right now. But after we turned them away and told them to go back to their hotel, they're now upset with us, and honestly, it's really pissing me off because I am not in a good place to like host anybody because I literally had a baby. And at this point, I don't know what else to do. Let's get started. Okay, for starters, I just had my baby on Tuesday. Also, my husband and I made it super clear that we wanted no visitors for a week after my son was born. We also live across the country. And trust me, all of this is going to be important in a second. My mother-in-law then said to my husband that apparently this was honestly mean to do to people, but we were under the impression that they understood. But holy crap, we were wrong. We both want time alone to bond with the baby. Plus, I had a C-section and I needed time to recover. Well, guess what? They booked a flight for this weekend and arrived today, all without telling anybody until the flight was already booked. My husband spoke to my father-in-law and told him how upset he is that nobody listens to him, but his dad kept talking about how it was the only time they could vacation for work. The flights were cheap for these days. I mean, we really need to get back for Easter as well. But seriously, we just got back from the hospital Thursday, and it's been really rough for me. My shirts are all drenched in milk, I'm sore, and I'm not in any place to have company right now. They arrived this morning, and my husband told them that they can't stop by today. And when my husband said that, they seemed upset, but they went back to their hotel, and that's the last I heard. When my husband asked why nobody listened to us, their only response was to say, "You have no idea how hard it is in the beginning, and we just wanted to help you out." And I just want to say, I know it comes from a place of love. We know they're excited for their first grandchild, but I feel completely overwhelmed and disrespected, and I just don't know what to do about this situation. My baby is feeding and gets hungry every 30 minutes sometimes, so it's just going to be really awkward to keep running back into my bedroom just to nurse. So honestly, what should we do here? Because we don't really know, and we're honestly kind of pissed off. Oh my gosh, talk about main character syndrome, dude. Like, what are we doing? You literally showed up and said, "Sorry, this is the only time that could work for me. No, we're not going to wait till after Easter. That would be way too reasonable. We're going to show up right now, even though you said not to. Oh, you had a C-section? We don't care. We want to see the baby." Like, dude, get out of my house. Do not show up. Also, as a fun fact, I've never had kids, can't physically have kids. I just can't. It's just not possible for me. But from what I've heard, like through the grapevine, hey, guess what? Having a kid is really stressful on your body. So for people to be over and be like, let's look at the baby, after you've literally been cut open with like, having a C-section, that is insanely rude. Like, bro, I don't want to be around anybody, even with like a minor procedure done. I want to sit in my bed and rot, but here you have to like take care of a tiny human that came out of you. So in my opinion, I don't think you're overreacting. I think your in-laws are idiots for flying out there and not telling you first. And even more to the point, just not even like trying to listen to you. They literally just said, oh, you don't want us showing up? Too bad, here we are. And that is really unacceptable because this sucks and it puts you in such a bad position. Am I the jerk for refusing to lend my car to my brother for his stupid Tinder date after he literally crashed my last one? Because now I really feel like I'm being gaslit by pretty much everybody around me, and at this point I don't know what to do. Let me break this down and explain exactly what's going on. Okay, look, I want to start off by saying that I love my younger brother, but the guy has the worst luck with vehicles. 6 months ago, he borrowed my old Civic to go to a concert, and he ended up rear-ending someone at a stoplight. He paid for the damage, but it took forever and my insurance went up. Fast forward to now, and I just bought a used 2020 Honda that I worked overtime for, and he's now asking to take it out this Friday because he wants to impress some girl he matched with. Well, I straight up told him no, plain and simple. He then got all defensive saying I'm holding a grudge and that accidents happen. But I explained it's not about the grudge. It's about the fact that he's totaled a car before, not mine, his own, and I can't risk my daily driver for a date. He also said I'm being selfish and that he'd be super careful this time, with my mom even saying that I should just do it to help him out. But dude, I feel like I'm being gaslit here. I'm not his personal rental service, and I already gave him a chance that cost me hundreds in a deductible. So why should I risk my new car just so he can look cool for some random girl? He can Uber, he can rent a car, or he can use his own stupid bike. But now the whole family's acting like I'm the jerk for setting a boundary. What should I do here? Okay, dude, if someone crashes my car, that's like an immediate like, no, you're never touching my vehicle again. And your insurance went up? Oh my God, I would never forgive him for that. I would go to every family get together and be like, yeah, remember the car, stupid? Like, no, you're not gonna take my car and impress your stupid Tinder date. Like, I don't think so. Like, the original poster is right. Screw that, dude. Go get a tandem bike and the both of you can ride around. And when she asks you, hey, why don't you have a car? You can explain what you did to get into this situation. So to put it shortly, no, you're not the jerk. Your brother's an idiot. And your mom is stupid for trying to be like, oh, just help him out. But last I checked, they probably have cars as well, which means they're trying to push you to the edge of the cliff as the scapegoat here and be like, please let him use your car. We don't want him wrecking ours. And that is not worth the risk, and I don't blame you for saying no. Am I overreacting for locking my own bedroom door? All because my mother-in-law, who's staying with us for a little bit, keeps walking in without knocking first. Because right now I feel like I'm losing it in my own home, and I seriously just don't know what to do from here. Here's what's going on, and trust me, things get very strange. Okay, to try and like set the scene of what I'm dealing with right now, last night my mother-in-law casually walked into our bedroom, while my husband and I were lying down in our bed watching a movie, and she did this without knocking and without any kind of warning. She just opened the door and started asking where the extra towels were. And holy crap, I was so startled I actually jumped. Now, the reason I'm even posting this about if I'm overreacting over this situation is because my husband thinks that this is normal and says I'm making it into a bigger deal than it needs to be. For a bit of context, my mother-in-law is staying with us for 2 weeks while some work is being done at her house. She's mostly fine as a guest, but she has this habit of just walking into our bedroom whenever she wants to ask something or even show me something on her phone. It's happened several times already. And at first I tried to ignore it because I didn't want to make things awkward, but it honestly makes me really uncomfortable not knowing when the door might suddenly open. So today I started locking the bedroom door when we're in there. Well, about an hour ago, she tried to open the door again. She then realized it was locked and started knocking loudly. When I opened it, she looked really hurt. She then told me locking the door felt exclusionary and like I was hiding things from her in her own son's house. My husband says, well, that's just how she is. And that locking the door comes off as aggressive. But at the same time, guess what? It's our bedroom. And I feel like wanting basic privacy isn't that unreasonable. So now I'm really second guessing myself because I just don't know if I'm in the wrong and I don't know what to do from here. Bro, you're not the jerk. You definitely didn't do anything wrong and you're not overreacting, dude. First off, I want to circle back to something she said. She literally looked at you and said, wow, you're hiding something in my son's house. It's like, lady, dude, I live here. This is my house you're talking about. It's not just him. I'm not his roommate, bro. bro. I'm his wife. What are we talking about? And for her to be like, oh my God, what are you hiding? It's like, I don't know, my naked body as I get dressed. Like, what do you mean, what am I hiding? You can't just kick the door in like the Kool-Aid man and be like, oh yeah, where's the towels? You gotta knock first, or at least be like, hello, is everybody decent in there? Because my God, you were laying in bed. A lot of other things could have been happening, if you know what I mean. And the last thing I would ever want in that situation is my mother-in-law walking in. Like, holy crap. She doesn't need to see the gift of life happening. Like, that's not gonna happen, dude. Like, get out of here, man. In my opinion, this is a very quick way of being like, okay, you're never staying with us again. I don't care if your house burns down. You're not staying for any period of time ever again, period. Because, dude, if I'm staying at someone else's house, I'm gonna be on my best behavior. Meaning I'm gonna knock before I go into someone's bedroom. I'm gonna clean up after myself. I'm gonna be a respectful guest in someone else's home. I'm gonna follow the rules. So no, you're not overreacting. I think locking your bedroom door absolutely needs to happen because your mother-in-law is creepy and she has no business walking in on you like that. An entitled older couple freak out when their card doesn't work at my cash register, claiming that it's all because I don't know how to do my job instead of some kind of problem that they caused themselves. Things got so bad that the man of that couple actually threw a coffee cup at me in a fit of rage, as he simply couldn't understand why I couldn't do my job. And I've honestly never been more angry with anybody in my life. Here's what happened. Okay, this is a story from when I worked at a very popular theme park in Florida, and this incident is one that almost made me quit. I was working as the cashier at a bakery store area for the resort I worked at. It was really busy and my line was very long. I was a fast cashier, so I was moving through the guests rather quickly. I hear an older man and woman arguing with each other as they come up through my line, but I just mind my business and I ring up their things. The man then says with an attitude that he needs a cup for coffee. So I grab one, I sit it on the counter, and I ring it up with the rest of their things. I tell them their total and they pull out their room card to pay. Now, room cards for reference were connected to their guest IDs, and guests could also connect a debit or credit card to them to try and make things easier during their vacation. So I go through the process of charging the card, but the computer won't read it. And I do it multiple times, but still I get nothing. The older woman then says, "This is the second card that's doing this." The older man responds by saying, "Well, what am I supposed to do? She's the one that doesn't know what she's doing." And he's literally referring to me. I look at him and I say, "Sir, do you have the debit or credit card associated with the room card with you? I could just use that instead of this." At this point, the old man then starts screaming at me. He says to me, "If I had that, I wouldn't have handed you the room key. Why can't you do your job?" Now at this point, I'm trying to calm down and remain not ignorant. A nice guest behind the man chimes in and says to the older gentleman that if it's happened 2 times already, it's probably because they're putting it next to their cell phone or something else that is demagnetizing it because it happened to them as well. This old jerk then looks at this nicer young man and says, "Who asked you?" The young man raises his hand and says sorry sarcastically, while other guests look at the older couple like they're nuts and look at me with sympathy. I look at him and I say, "Sir, ma'am, do you have any other form of payment?" And at this point, the man throws the stuff they had angrily on the counter, and his wife follows up by knocking the cup on the ground. At this point, some people leave the line, and the welcome desk lady some feet behind me stare on in bewilderment. The older man then starts screaming, "I don't even want this crap anymore. All I wanted was a coffee." Now me, wanting them to just leave my line and get off my nerves, I say to them, "Here, I'll give you the coffee for free." I hand him another cup, which he attempts to snatch out of my hand, causing this one to also drop to the ground. And this was the moment that he did something to me that honestly blew my mind. He picks it up and angrily throws it at me. He screams out, "I need another one." And at this point, my mind was blown. Guys, I was shaking. What I'm feeling at that moment wasn't rage, but rather it was wrath. I'm brown, but my face and neck were red. I then understood why God didn't give humans superpowers, because I would have reduced that entire place to ashes, starting with that older couple. Everything would have gone up in flames. I then grabbed another cup and I sat it on the counter. Before handing it to the man, I calmly spoke to him. I said, "Sir, instead of acting like this, all you had to do was ask. You see that desk behind me? They can print you a new card if you need it." Him and his wife seemed to deflate, but said nothing as I handed him the cup. I then asked them to leave my line and they walked away. The nice man and his woman looked at me with pity, and the woman said she was sorry that I had to go through that. I managed to ring up their things, but I couldn't continue. So I called my manager on the phone that was next to the cash register. She answered and instantly knew by my voice that something was wrong. I then told her that I needed a break and that I couldn't be there right now. She said okay and said she was on her way, and then a minute later told me to take a breather. I couldn't even make it to the worker break room bathroom before the tears started, so I ran to the guest bathroom into a stall and I cried there. I cried not because I was sad, but because I was angry and had to suppress it. I was boiling over like a pot of water on the inside. Throughout that week, no matter where I saw that man and his wife, I gave them the nastiest stink eye I could possibly muster. Suddenly, they were super nice to everyone else, but refused to make eye contact with me longer than a few seconds. And although they never apologized for the way they treated me, they did, however, look incredibly guilty anytime they saw me. Okay, I resonate with this so much because this captures so beautifully what it's like to be in customer service. Not only do you get to deal with people all the time who treat you like garbage, but also you have other people trying to give their sympathy to you for the way that you got treated. Like, I'm not blaming the other couple for being like, wow, I'm so sorry you got treated like that. But sometimes, honestly, it really feels like when you're in customer service, whether that's a cashier or a server or something like that, you become this animal in a cage that people can either treat really nicely or treat like garbage depending on who it is. And it's like, yes, the man and woman of this story are absolute pieces of garbage, but also being told, I'm so sorry you have to deal with that, in my opinion, is super condescending. I know they meant well, but for me, I would still be super upset because there's nothing anybody can do about this. They can't stop them from acting like that, and I also, in some cases, can't stop them from doing that either. Like, just look at the way the original poster reacted here. They had to not only give them a free cup of coffee, but they had to be nice about this instead of being like, why are you talking to me like that? Because they knew for a fact they would lose their job. If I had $1 for every time I wanted to tell off a patient or a customer or any other field that I've worked in, where you're like a forward-facing member of the company, I would have so much money it's not even funny. And I think anybody who's worked customer service would understand where I'm coming from there. And I also understand them running to the bathroom and crying because I've been there as well. I'm not sad or scared about the way they talk to me, but instead I'm so angry that I have no control over the situation. And this for me is why having a good manager is so important in these kind of jobs. Because any manager who's worth their weight in salt would literally tell you like, okay, you can tell them off and tell them to get lost. You can deny service, and yes, you can tell them to leave. But if they had a different manager who was not compassionate about your situation, they could easily side with these pieces of crap that treated you like garbage. And by the way, they tossed their items at you in a fit of rage, all because they screwed up their stupid card. Like, that's not your fault. That's nobody's fault but theirs. This story hits so many layers deep for me. I love it so much because honestly, it really captures what it's like to be in customer service. Because truly, especially nowadays, these kinds of interactions happen way more than people might realize. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. I got fired several years ago right before Thanksgiving, leaving me in such a pinch that it honestly ruined so much of my life. So I decided to get some petty revenge by ensuring that their online presence for this company would be littered with negative reviews that they could never escape from. Here's what happened. Okay, to start things out, this happened at an old company and job of mine. For reference, they messed me over so bad and they really did me dirty. They fired me for no reason, but the manager in charge felt threatened by me. I truly was a solid employee, and I had a hunger to grow, learn, and overwork myself. This was a while back. My managers starting off were great, but the last one was an external hire and couldn't answer a phone call, let alone should be a manager in the first place. He is too concerned about who he can bang and make sure that he only hires ones within a certain criteria that is completely inappropriate. Well, the company has a 2.6 rating on Indeed, and constantly there are negative reviews and a few positive reviews. I would have a positive review too if I wasn't working under a dirtbag for half my time there. Anyway, since that time, I go back and I make sure to thumbs up all the negative reviews as they come in. And I'm doing this so no one else considers working with them or to encourage that the negative reviews are in fact true to how they are. Now, it's stupid and petty, but honestly, I don't care. I would celebrate if that company burns down to the ground. They fired me days before Thanksgiving. You know, a single mother who had the top performance and saved the company millions of dollars. Yes, that's right, millions of dollars. So in the end, they were just another crooked corporation system, and I'm honestly so glad I'm away from them, and I truly pray for their downfall. Oh man, I've been there 100%. You leave a job that treated you like crap, and so you decide, okay, let's make their online presence suck. And sure, I've thought about doing this in some kind of way, where I make their online presence look like garbage or something like that, but it seems like you decided, oh no, I'm gonna do it. And you started like really making sure that people saw these negative reviews. And I don't totally think that's petty, like it really does seem like these people suck, and people need to know exactly what they're getting into. So the fact that they have a 2.6 rating on Indeed, and they really are just not having a good time on that regard, in my opinion, will do wonders for this company and making sure that people avoid them. Because I don't know about you, but if I see a 2.6 out of 5 rating on some kind of website, then I, as the customer or even a potential hire, would be like, wait a second, why do they suck so much? And then I would immediately go to the reviews and be like, wait a second, why do these people have such bad ratings? Thus completing the cycle that the original poster wanted to happen. So yeah, I think what you're doing is well well deserved? Because from the sounds of it, these people absolutely deserve the trouble. My idiotic father is convinced that Donald Trump invited him specifically to come to his inauguration. And right now, I'm worried that he's fallen for a scam, and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so I was visiting my parents this weekend. They live out of state, so I don't see them often, but my mom had just gotten out of the hospital. While I was there, I had one of the most frustrating conversations I've ever had with my father. I said to him, remember, never give any money to people who call or email you. The scammers are getting really advanced, and people who think they're prepared for this somehow still fall for it. They especially target older people. My father then said, oh, I know. I would never do that. We don't fall for scammers. So I respond and say, well, that's good. Just letting you know they've escalated things and gotten really good at convincing people that they are legit. They spoof numbers, they buy your info online, and they try to make you believe them. Now, my dad, who's slightly irritated by my insistence, said to me, I know, I got it. We use Wells Fargo because they have really good security against that stuff, and they'll give you your money back because most scams attack your bank account. At this point, I looked at him and I said, sure, I guess, but if you make a payment through your bank, then maybe that could help, but there's no guarantee. But my father kept saying that he knew what he was talking about and that apparently he coaches other older people about it. So I looked at him and I said, okay, I'm just making sure that you're aware of this, because most of the time they don't attack your bank account. They convince you to withdraw cash and put it on a gift card or Bitcoin and then give them the information. Then the money's gone and nobody can help you get it back. But even with my warning, my father kept saying, I know, I would never fall for that. And I just said, okay, that's good. Well, not even a few minutes later, my dad responded in a way that honestly was so weird. He said to me, you know, if your mom didn't get sick, I would have been flying to Washington today for the inauguration tomorrow. I then look up at him pretending to be interested and I say, oh really? Well, that's cool, I guess. He said to me, yeah, I donated some money to Trump, so he sends me stuff in the mail. It was kind of a lot, but not really that much, but it was a good amount. So yeah, basically Trump sent me an invite to the inauguration. He was going to send his private jet to pick me up and fly me to Washington and put me in a hotel with all expenses paid. Now at this point, he was smiling and I was waiting for him to say, oh, I'm just kidding, but he didn't. And it was right then that I realized he was serious. I looked at him and I said, well, it sounds like a scam to me, but my dad responded by saying, no, it's real. Trump's been sending me stuff all the time in the mail ever since I donated. He invited me specifically. After that, I just changed the topic because I didn't want to argue. It is so wild to think that my dad actually believed all of this, especially after insisting that he would never fall for a scam. Sadly though, I wouldn't be surprised if he falls for a Trump-related scam down the road, because from the looks of it, he doesn't seem like the brightest apple in the bunch. Oh my gosh, that is so weird. Seriously, how can you fall for something like that? The second any politician, regardless of who it is or what side of the aisle they're on, sends me something in the mail asking for a specific donation, like that for me is a giant red flag, and I would be like, no, I'm not gonna do that. That's crazy. Because seriously, dude, think about it. Does this guy really think that the president is going to invite him specifically? You know, someone who he doesn't know and is just some regular, ordinary citizen? Like, that's so dumb and so stupid. Like, what is he thinking? Like, no one actually believes that, right? If anything, this is like a scammer's paradise, where they get free money, probably like a couple $100s from the person, and then they just keep sending him stuff trying to bait more money out of them. So yeah, your dad is completely wrong, and obviously he fell for something that he didn't expect. And hopefully for the sake of you and your family, this doesn't happen to him again anytime soon. My daughter is incredibly entitled, as she constantly treats me and my wife like garbage, literally blaming us for all of her problems and refusing to take accountability for anything that she does. And at this point, I'm honestly so frustrated that I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, I want to start off by saying that I know this is a long post, but this all involves my daughter, and the entitlement she shows is honestly just so astounding. It all started when she was young. She never has been able to accept responsibility for her actions, and even if she wasn't directly involved, she would ignore her role in the events. For example, she had a friend sleep over, and they played Ding Dong Ditch on our neighbor who lives next door. And of course, it was all her friend's idea, and all of her friend's fault and not hers. My wife and I were both telling her, but wait a second, you were there, you participated in it. My words included were to say, if you're going to do that, go to another neighborhood where nobody knows us. Also, as a child, she would often, as she described it, accidentally hurt her younger sister. We would want her to apologize and say she was sorry, but she would respond by saying, I don't feel sorry, and I won't even say it if I don't feel sorry. We tried to explain how, as an adult, we often say that as an acknowledgement of an event, but also as an acceptance of fault. For example, if you bump into a cart at a supermarket, you say sorry as an immediate response. But even with that example, she still wouldn't do it. She's also a quitter. Every time something gets hard, she wants to quit. We enrolled her in karate, and every new belt level was another challenge. New skills to learn, new techniques to master, new forms to learn. I mean, she would be all excited about graduating, but then would want to quit a few classes into the new belt, all because it was too hard. We would explain that this is why you go, so you learn to do them and get better. We would offer to video the instructor so that we could practice at home, but that was not good enough. But eventually she quit at advanced brown belt. Then came gymnastics. You know, the BMW car payment a month, plus competition fees, uniforms, travel, and hotels. She would only eat chips and candy, and I would bring her cut up apples, but she just refused to eat it. Any healthier snacks she would just decline. She wanted us to spend money on the snack machine for more candy or chips. I tried to have a discussion about how much she's working out, like maybe 4 hours, 3 to 4 times a week, and then she would accuse me of calling her fat. But I never said that. She would then say, well, you said I needed to go on a diet. And it's like, no, I said you need a healthier diet with proteins and healthier food to rebuild your body. She wanted me to watch her at practice, and honestly, I simply couldn't. I was too enraged. Her behavior was horrible in the gym, and once again, it wasn't her fault. Was she climbing the door to look out the window? Well, apparently everyone else was doing it. Was she just standing on the balance beam and not doing anything? Well, apparently she was waiting for them to watch her. And it's like, trust me, honey, they are watching you. They're watching you stand there and not practice. If you practice, they are more likely to come by and offer some help. If you are just standing there, then they will pay more attention to those who are doing something. She would also say stuff like, oh, they just don't like me. Or my favorite, well, why can't I just have fun? Well, eventually she gets her license, and we borrow against our retirement to get her a car. And trust me, this is nothing fancy, but it's hers to use. And if we ask her to help clear the driveway, well, apparently she'll just say, well, this is not my house. We then find out her friend gets her permit, so we have a talk about how no one else is to drive that car. It is in my wife's name, and my daughter is not legally allowed to supervise an unlicensed driver anyways. But also, she's the only one allowed to drive that vehicle. Well, fast forward, and she then lets a 14-year-old who she knew didn't have a license or a permit drive the car. And guess what? He totaled it. They tried to cover it up by switching seats, despite the fact that there were witnesses. Then they lied to the cops about it. But again, it's not her fault. He told her that he knew how to drive. And let's not even begin to mention the vapes. She drops out of high school because I'll never use any of that stuff in real life. We then use her college money to, yet again, help her get another car, which she had for a few months and sold it back to the dealer at a huge loss. Also that she can move states away to move in with her boyfriend. Thousands of dollars gone, and she has none of it left after about 4 months. And now she's also back home, because what happened between them is between them. Another time is when we were meeting up at a family member's house for football. Prior to that meeting, they stopped for dinner at a restaurant and picked me up in order to go. It was also sitting on the back seat next to her as we pulled up. Now, I had prior obligations, so I didn't attend dinner, but we all had arrived at the same time. I asked her to please grab my food, but she said to me, "You've got arms, go get it yourself." And I was like, seriously? It's right next to you. You could just grab it. But she then looked at me and said, "Why are you yelling at me?" Even though I wasn't yelling. I responded back by saying, well, why can't you just grab my food? Why are you yelling? And this went back and forth. My wife then had a talk with her and told her basically that she was being ridiculous and unreasonable. I'm the only person she ever treats this way, and I'm owed an apology. Well, as you can probably guess, I never got one. When we got home, I told her how upset I was by her lack of a simple act of kindness, and to never ask me for another favor, because trust me, I won't do it. Don't ask me for help ever again. Well, at Christmas, she mentioned how she recognizes that she's a reason our communication isn't the greatest, which literally is the first time she's accepted responsibility, but still not given an apology. I then asked if she's ever been made to feel like she was less than a family member or made to feel like she was adopted, and to that she said no. Well, fast forward to now, and I help her to the doctor, and she texts me and says, "Can we stop for pancakes?" And this is while she's back waiting for the doctor. I then text back and I say, "We can stop somewhere and you can buy pancakes, whether it's McDonald's or whatever." But her reply was to say, "Okay, well, never mind." But it's like, okay, I guess I'm the jerk here. On the way home, she tells me that she has a prescription that she needs to get picked up. Now, I don't remember how it came up, but she finally admits that she doesn't have her wallet. She has no way to pay for it, and she only has $35 in her account. And at this point, she's 18 years old. Now, does she want me to swing by the house to go get it? Well, no, of course not. She wants me to pay for it. I tell her that this is part of being an adult and being responsible. I then tell her about a company that can possibly give discounts that they might offer, and then I include my own personal experience with saving over $200 getting a prescription filled this way. But all I get is a thumbs up. But now she's talking to me because I'm apparently rude and disrespectful. And trust me, I know I will never win Father of the Year with my daughter. I love her for being my child, but I'm honestly just completely emotionally spent. Okay, I think your daughter is super spoiled and super rotten, and I think you have every right to be upset. And I want to start off with that because I think we have a bigger problem here. You both, and I mean both you and your wife, consistently cave in to any of her demands. It's like you get upset about what she's doing, and then you're like, okay, I guess we'll pay for it. Like seriously, you're a part of the problem. You are literally enabling this behavior in a weird way. For example, when she ding-dong ditched the neighbor, instead of saying, oh my god, don't ever do that again, you're grounded, you said, well, why don't you go to another neighborhood where nobody knows us? You didn't actively condone the activity. Instead, you're like, oh yeah, this is fine. Do it somewhere else where we don't know people. It's like, what are you doing? That is so stupid. Why would you encourage this behavior from somebody who clearly is irresponsible? And I can get past the whole sports situation where she's like doing gymnastics or karate. I mean, that's typical kid stuff. Kids quit stuff all the time, so that doesn't bother me. But the second you describe that car incident where one of her friends totaled the car and then she tried to be like, well, it's not my fault, and even lie to the police, that would have been the final straw for me. Because there is no way on planet Earth she would ever be welcome back in my house. She would be gone forever. And I'm talking when she hits 18 years old, she's got to find some place to live. Like that is so unbelievably crazy. Because this is so much further than some like angsty teenager. Quite literally anything else would be acceptable except for this. This crosses so many boundaries for me, it's not even funny. But what do you do in this situation? You take from her college fund and say, okay, we'll get you another car. But then she turns around and sells it again. Like, what is going on right now? This is not normal behavior. You should not be putting up with this, and I can't believe that you are. So yes, your daughter is super entitled, but you are also super blind because you are literally enabling this behavior from the very beginning. And if you want any kind of serious change to happen, then in my opinion, the change has to start with you. An entitled jerk goes on the wrong way of the road on a one-way street that literally has no room for turning around. But instead of submitting to this guy and his huge truck, my friend and I decided to stand our ground, humiliating this idiot in such a way that he truly will never forget. Here's what happened. Okay, to start things out, my grocery has a narrow one-way rows of angled parking, and the lot is very busy, in part because there's a shopping mall attached to its feeder road, and jerks will often speed through the lot from the feeder road to avoid a stoplight. These entitled idiots frequently don't grasp the concept of a one-way, and cause traffic jams when they inevitably encounter drivers going the right way. It is seriously dangerous. The many other cars and pedestrians don't expect morons to be barreling down the road the wrong way. When one of these traffic jams happens, the easiest way to fix it is the person who's going the right way has to pull back into a parking space, assuming there's an empty one, thus enabling the wrong way idiot to pass. Recently, I was shopping with a friend, and as expected, we pulled out of our spot, and naturally, we soon met with a moron in a gigantic pickup truck bombing up the road the wrong way. Well, it turns out that she had had enough of these people. On this day, most parking spaces around us were filled, but there was one right there that she could have pulled into. Well, Mr. Tiny Man in the pickup felt so entitled to the right-of-way, he even stopped far back enough so she could pull into the spot for his convenience. But rather than do so, she surprised everyone by aggressively slowing down and stopping a few feet from his huge bumper. Mr. Little Man then had the nerve to rev his engine a few times and kept creeping forward threateningly, as if he was going to force us to back all the way up to the end of the aisle so he didn't have to do the same. But my friend just put the car in parked and just waited. He then honked his horn at her, as if she were the one going the wrong way. She then pulled out her phone and started recording him, and I was kind of scared that he might road rage us into an early grave, but he didn't. Behind us, the stoplight he should have gone through turned green, and I could see him seething as he watched all the normal drivers that he thought he'd cut off getting their turn to go ahead of him. In the end, infuriated, he threw his truck into reverse and slammed on the gas, backing up way too fast for a parking lot. About 4 parking spaces back, he miscalculated the angle of his wheel and slammed the back of his pickup on the cart corral. And this wasn't a disabling accident, and luckily he didn't hit a pedestrian, but I'm sure that will cost him a pretty penny. He didn't even stop to get out and inspect the damage, most likely because he managed to publicly shame himself in such a grand fashion. It was honestly all so satisfying to watch because this entitled jerk absolutely had it coming. Oh man, I love this so much because seriously, I have run into this very situation myself. Here you have a one-way road that literally you're meant to go on. It's a tight squeeze and there's only one car that's meant to be there, and you're the one that's supposed to be going this direction. But then here comes some jerk barreling down on you, acting like you're the one that's in the way, when in reality, he's the one who started all of this to begin with. And for starters, the fact that this hasn't been like addressed or had like a cop car parked in front of just to give out tickets and discourage this kind of action, in my opinion, is insane. I can understand not wanting to deal with traffic, but going the wrong way on the road is not the answer. That's how someone gets in an accident or worse. Like seriously, someone could have gotten hurt by this guy. And I just need to say this, and maybe someone can answer this in the comment section, but why is it that anyone who acts this way most likely is someone in a very big truck? Is it because the truck's big and they feel like they can get away with it? Or is there some kind of like, I don't know, correlation between like the kind of person you are and how big your truck is? And also, look, there's obviously some euphemisms here that I've replaced, especially when I say little man, because this guy has more of like a little man energy, if anything. And I think you know what I'm trying to say here. Obviously, I want to say it, but you know that I can't, so I think we kind of understand where I'm coming from. But like, why is that the case? This guy literally was in the wrong and he thought he could bully this other person into moving? Like, what's happening? Just because your vehicle's bigger than mine doesn't mean that I have to bend to your stupid will. So seriously, to the original poster, I love what you did and I'm a big fan of this. Because this entitled jerk was absolutely in the wrong and you had every right to stay there until he decided to move. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Today, I messed up by accidentally outing my sister's pregnancy all before she was ready to say anything to the family. Because right now, she is super pissed off at me. And at this point, I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so here's the situation. My sister recently found out that she's pregnant, but she had not told anyone yet except for me and her husband. She made me swear not to say anything until they were ready to announce it themselves. And I really meant to keep that promise. Well, fast forward to last night when we were having a small family gathering at our parents' house. Someone brought up babies, and I think it was our aunt asking when someone in the family would finally have kids again. And without thinking, I blurted out something like, well, you won't have to wait long, while then looking directly at my sister. Well, everyone immediately turned their attention towards her while I realized what I'd just done, because right in that moment, I wanted to crawl into a hole forever. My sister tried laughing it off at first, but eventually admitted that yes, she is pregnant, but they weren't planning on telling anyone until after her first trimester because they wanted to make sure that everything was okay first. Now she's furious with me for spilling the beans early, and understandably so. Our parents are upset that they weren't told sooner, which is also understandable, and I now feel like the worst sibling ever. What should I do? Oh my gosh, you're that kind of person. You literally spill the beans immediately. And I really do mean immediately, because while sure you may have sat on this information for a while, what you really needed to do was keep your mouth shut anytime that subject is brought up in the first place. Like if I was in your sister's shoes, I would never trust you with any information ever again. You proved right then and there that you can't know anything. You can't keep your mouth shut, you can't keep secrets. I mean, I would never tell you anything ever again if you did that to me. So yeah, you definitely messed up here because what you did is so unbelievably toxic. And if I was in your shoes, I would be falling at my sister's feet begging for forgiveness because what you did is unacceptable and you really should be ashamed of yourself. Am I overreacting for refusing to pay an extra $600 just to stay with my dad before going to the army? Because right now I'm very confused and I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. A few days ago, I decided to join the army. Since I will be leaving soon, I asked my dad if I could stay with him, his fiance, and my sisters until it's time to go. Now, we agreed that I would pay double what I used to contribute for living expenses. For reference, I used to pay $300 a month, so doubling it would be $600. I gave him the $600 as agreed, but then he told me I was another $600 short. Now, I was super confused because $600 is double what I used to pay. I explained that to him, thinking that maybe he forgot the original amount, but he kept insisting that I owed him more money. At that point, I asked him for the extra $600 back because I needed that money, especially with the expenses I have coming up before I leave. Well, he refused to return it and didn't even seem interested in hearing me out. I'm honestly at a loss here. I wasn't trying to cause any drama. I just wanted to contribute fairly and make things easier for everyone before I leave. I feel like he's either misunderstood or deliberately took advantage of the situation, and that honestly hurts. I didn't want to argue about it, so after a few hours, I packed up and I went to my sister's place, and I will be staying here until I leave for basic training. The whole situation has honestly been eating me up. I can't stop thinking about how unnecessary this was. I get that everyone's stressed and maybe money is tight for them, but I feel like I was clear about the arrangement. Plus, I'm about to leave for a huge new chapter in my life, and I didn't expect this kind of stress from my own father right before that. Part of me wants to keep pressing him to return the money because it's not just about the cash, it's the principle of it. On the other hand, I'm wondering if it's worth the energy. So seriously, am I overreacting here? Should I have pushed harder to get the money back, or just let it go and focus on moving forward? I'm really torn between wanting to stand my ground and not wanting to deal with the headache, so I really would love some advice, especially from anyone who's been in a similar situation with family or dealt with money disputes, because right now I'm honestly not sure how to handle this. Okay, in my opinion, I don't think you're overreacting for wanting that money back, because guess what? If you're not staying there, then he needs to give it back. Plus, this guy's a jerk for trying to charge you double what you already were giving him. Like seriously, this guy is completely immature, and the fact that he was trying to double it on top top of that is also insane. So no, you're not the jerk here. Your dad needs to give you your money back because you literally are not staying with him. Because I know if I was in your shoes, I would be climbing up the walls with rage, demanding that he hand that back over. Because sure, his money might be tight, but guess what? You're the one that just paid him. And if he really doesn't give that money back, then he is absolutely the one at fault. The new servers that work in my restaurant are absolutely the worst, as they're making my life a living nightmare, forcing me to clean up after them all the time in a way that is truly driving me crazy. Here's what happened. Okay, so I've been a server here for almost 2 years now. I'm the closer and head server, and as the head server, I have some authority to a point, and I was recently recommended by my manager to corporate for some kind of manager's position. So I've been training under my manager to take on more responsible roles, but the only thing I can't do until I get the new position is count the drawer and do the schedule. Now we have 2 new hires who I will call Jay and Lisa, and Jay was hired first a few weeks ago, and for some reason, the day shift management always have the new trainees train on the first shift, which is not ideal because first shift has really bad habits. And to illustrate that, let's just say that the first shift and the second shift definitely despise each other. Well, after Jay was put on the floor by himself after his training by the first shift, he was put on second shift and I was shocked by what I saw from him. He has shoulder-length hair that was not pulled up or back, and after 3 weeks, he still has no non-slip shoes. He would also put in an order and then run off to the hotel bathroom, which we are not allowed to do. Or his food would come up, and then he would go to the bathroom for 10 minutes at a time. He never does the 2-minute check back at the table. He never does refills. He doesn't pre-bus dishes from his tables. And my manager basically waited on his tables every night that he worked. A table also complained about a lot of dandruff on his shoulders. He just basically takes an order, puts it in, and then disappears while we do the rest for him. Now, my manager and I go outside to vape and to have meetings. And this is mostly about the schedule and what the general manager or the owner want to see from us, or even something the GM wants to change, product costs, buckling down on certain things, or talk about what we're going to do next for my manager training. Then we talk about personal things in our lives that we just want to stay between us. When we start to head outside, grab our coat as it is snowing where we live, and ask a server to watch the front for us, Jay immediately follows us outside, or sees that we're out there and heads right outside with us. When he gets cut, it's time to do side work, and my God, I can't do my closing until he's done with his side work. And we've told him this many times. Now, I have ADHD and a cleaning OCD. I have a routine that I always do when closing, and I can be clocked out 30 to 45 minutes after we lock the doors. He had never said that he has ADD or ADHD, never mentioned anything about anything close to having it, or anything similar, but this guy is seriously so scattered. One second he's in the back doing his side work, and the next he has half his section vacuumed, and then takes 30 minutes to roll 20 sets of silverware, while he still has 80% of side work in the back left to do. He'll say something like, "Oh, I got bored being back there, so I went up front to do my section," which he didn't even get halfway done before going to do roll with Lisa. We have a 2-hour rule after closing, which basically means we can't stay past 2 hours after close, so we have to hustle to get out of there. He clocked out after being cut for 3 hours and still didn't do all of his side work, and I told him weeks ago that I have a 3-year-old at home that I would like to tuck into bed. Now, when it comes to Lisa, I really thought that she would do great because her parents used to own a restaurant when she was a bit younger. She is a teenager, and she was also trained on first shift, and she was on the floor by herself after 2 days of training, and then she was put in on second shift. And as you can probably guess, Lisa too picked up first shift's bad habits. I've seen her do a multitude of health code violations on my first day working with her, and my high blood pressure skyrocketed. She and Jay, while supposedly doing side work, just stood around talking the entire time. Instead of the 80-20 rule, she is leaning on the wall across from the line on her phone, which is definitely not allowed. I mean, corporate is watching with cameras, and we have literally told her this. If it's not work related, then you can't be on your phone. And she gives an attitude when you ask her to do or don't do something. When we say corner, it should be loud enough to be heard on the opposite side, not loud enough where you can hear it at the front doors as if someone's screaming corner at the top of their lungs. It really disrupts our guests. She also has very rude comments and responses when trying to have a conversation with her. My manager and I have to restart the same sentence at least 3 or more times, especially when telling her about her side work, because she turns around and talks to Jay very loudly and then just laughs about not listening to you. Now, the other night we close at 9 p.m. and I didn't clock out until nearly 8 minutes before 1 in the morning. My manager told them to just clock out and go, and I had to finish their side work, my closing, their sections, and mine, plus roll the silverware I had, 6 sets, and it took 1 minute to roll, but it took them 30 minutes to roll 20 sets each. My manager and I talked about how if someone is going to be on second shift, then they need to be trained grind by second shift. She's gonna talk to the general manager about it, but regardless, I take pride in my job and how I am as a closer. The general manager even called it beautiful when going in on the morning after. Plus, our owner has been secretly coming in as a secret shopper recently, and if he doesn't like what he sees, we will either be sold or shut down. And as for the first shift, they get their tip out and run out the door without doing half their side work or even touching their section. But I come in and finish side work for them. I have to clean my section, do fills, clean tables and booths, and vacuum while missing out on tips because I'm getting skipped over and over. They make sometimes over $300 in tips and skip out, while I come in, do half or more of their work, and make maybe $38 in total. And for reference, it's slow at night during the winter, especially when it snows over 4 inches. I can't work mornings because of my kid, and I don't have anyone to watch her at 8 o'clock in the morning. My mom watches her while I work nights, and my mom works mornings. And they don't want me on first shift because apparently I bully them because I point out health code violations and cross-contaminations that they do. Well, Jay was let go on Monday, and I was told to educate Lisa while working with her. But with all things considered, I'm honestly wondering if anyone else has ever dealt with new servers like this before, because I am seriously so frustrated and I don't know what to do. Yeah, it really sounds like your coworkers are not nearly as motivated as you are. And trust me, I understand the animosity between shifts, because there is nothing more frustrating than coming in and realize that people left you their mess to clean up. And it's like, oh my god, are you kidding me right now? If I did that, these people would freak out, and yet I'm expected to keep my stuff clean for them in the morning. It's like, what are we doing right now? That is so unfair. Now, I know if I was in your shoes, I would just keep doing the best that I can and try to show my coworkers that yes, they need to work together to get things done. That means doing their side work and doing their portion of what they need to do. And it sounds like you might be up for management, so I think having some kind of like practice with that and trying to keep a level head while also trying to train them would probably do wonders for your job and your sanity at this job. Because trust me, I totally understand where you're coming from, especially when you're dealing with incompetent coworkers, because that really can bog you down in a way that others can't understand unless they experience it themselves. I was severely bullied during my stay at a small Christian university, resulting in a lot of anguish and a lot of problems in my life. But at the end of the day, karma came around and took care of my bullies in a way that they will never forget, as their lives literally fell apart. Here's what happened. Okay, so I attended a small Christian university roughly 20 years ago. It was actually accredited and offered a good education. Honestly, the professors and staff were really good overall, but oh dear sweet flying spaghetti monster, the students were something else. It was like a magnet for entitled brats. My first year, I had not made many friends. I'm an introvert, and I was so painfully shy at the time, so pulling myself out there was really hard. As a result, I ended up with a roommate my second year that I didn't know at all. Let's call him Jake for the sake of the story. Jake was a bully. Most of my life, I think I walked around with a bully me sign on my back, as it was a pretty constant thing in my childhood and early adult life. He would randomly take things, question every choice I made, and talk down about my studies. He also had a friend who we will call Mark, who was maybe even worse. He was also a bully. The guy was a checklist of all the worst aspects of religious fanatics, arrogant, a hypocrite, and seemed to want power and influence. And so he was aiming to become a pastor. Both were pretty relentless in bullying me. They said that they wouldn't if I stood up for myself, but when I did, I quickly found out that they could dish it out but couldn't take it. They would interrupt my studies and sleep constantly, and it was seriously the first time I ever contemplated hurting myself in a serious way, if you know what I mean. I ended up spending most of my time anywhere that wasn't my dorm. Now, there are a lot of stories I could share about them, but I wanted to focus on just a few. For starters, Mark liked to play video games with us, mostly Smash Brothers. He was always cocky, and he was better than me, who prefers to play other types of games. Trash talk was common, but neither of them could take what they dished out. One time we were playing with a group, and I actually managed to win. I was in the zone, and I felt really good. That is, until Mark opened his mouth. Mark said to me, "Wow, I lost to this guy? Man, I was playing terribly." I said to him, "Well, maybe God wanted to see you humbled." And yes, I kinda sucked at burns back then. Mark then looked at me and said, "Well, he's gonna love when you get punched in the face." One of the other players gave out a whoa as he'd essentially threatened me with violence. And this is all over a video game because he lost once. I guess I was feeling annoyed since he was being dismissive of me and had basically said I deserved to get punched in the face. I responded by saying, "You get annoyed with us for cursing, and you basically said you want me to get punched." Mark then starts on some lecture about how cursing is against God, when the same guy who had given the whoa before just said, "Mark, please shut the F up." And at this point, I couldn't help it. I laughed my butt off. Mark just sat there kinda unable to say anything. The guy later told me that he got a lecture from Mark for cursing, but said that it was well worth it. Mark had a bevy of other entitled moments as well. He would enter people's rooms without asking and use their stuff. off. He also shamed a friend of mine because I was able to get close to her, but he wasn't, and several other instances of refusing to pay people back. But now I want to talk about Jake. This one is more secondhand, but I trust the sources. Jake wasn't as religious at the time. While I was back home for a weekend, he apparently decided to go out drinking. Now, being a religious school, this was a big no-no. He'd actually get into trouble for this before, but he felt it was a stupid rule, so he wasn't going to follow it. And I should also note that he was underage for where we lived at the time. Anyways, he came into the common area blitzed. Two of my friends were watching a film, and he just kind of sat down, tossing his keys onto the table. After a bit, he started to vomit, and they fetched the RA on duty at the time. This particular RA was a really good guy, the kind of person who'd go out of his way to make sure everyone was doing well and help out with any issues. When he saw Jake, he asked if he needed any help or water or anything else like that. But Jake wasn't having it though. He told everybody to F off and that he was leaving, and then he went for his keys. Now, the RA likely would have let the drinking slip since he was more concerned for his well-being, but he wasn't about to let someone drink and drive. So when he reached out to grab the keys, Jake punched him across the face. Now, I don't have many details about what happened after that, but I got a call letting me know my roommate was being kicked out of the school and that he was not permitted to come on campus anymore. This also actually led to a lot of problems for me, since they suspected I knew and was hiding it. I told them I avoided being in that room as much as possible, which friends and the library staff confirmed, but it did cost me becoming an RA since the higher-ups still weren't sure about me. Fortunately, Mark had to leave school after that year because his parents were not going to fund him and his poor grades, and Jake was banned from campus. Mark, who had wanted to become a minister, thankfully never was appointed to any church leadership. And for Jake, it actually is kind of a sad story, as he spiraled and ended up homeless for a long time, and he's now every bit the religious zealot that Mark was. After that, things were much better for me. I found my people on campus, mostly in my major, as well as others who took Love Thy Neighbor much more seriously. After graduating, I ended up working overseas, deconverting and getting help I need for my mental health disorders, and finding some of the best friends I've ever known. And this wouldn't be my last encounter with an entitled bully, but I'm better and I'm handling it now. All this to say is that if you're planning to attend a small religious college, well, maybe consider some alternatives. I'm not saying religion is bad, but if my experience is any indication, your faith is better served elsewhere. Wow, this is crazy to me. I've never been to a religious school, but a lot of my friends that I talk to basically say, yeah, this is kind of their experience. And that sucks. That really sucks because you would expect some kind of like higher standard of living. And yet here you have guys that are literally trying to be like, oh yeah, this is God's plan for me. Meanwhile, they're doing the exact opposite of what's expected of them. So yeah, to the original poster, I'm so sorry you went through that, and I'm sorry that you had to see this level of hypocrisy, because the way these guys treated you was completely out of line. My entitled sister tries to steal money out of my trust fund by calling them up, pretending to be me, all in some weird attempt to transfer money into her account. And right now, I'm honestly so shocked and disgusted by her actions that right now I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm a 38-year-old female and my family is a little messed up. I have essentially had 5 parents and 3 different groups of siblings. So yeah, it's a bit much. As a child, I was living in the United States with my adoptive parents, and a lot of stuff went down that wasn't great. So I moved back to the United Kingdom when I was 9 years old. I had a lot of trauma and the beginnings of a rather serious substance problem, and so my dad in the United States set up a trust for me before he passed away so that anything mental health related was paid for, and I didn't have to stress about being able to sort myself out as I got older. And it has been rather handy over the last 30 years, paying for a home when I was a teenager, as well as therapy and rehab. Basically anything needed to help me not pass away. At some point in my teenage years, I made contact with my biological parents and their other kids, and I was somewhat welcomed back into the fold. Now, some of my full siblings had issue with this, which is fair enough, and it was a big change to everyone's lives. My little sister apparently found it particularly hard, and so we've never got along and have been no contact for almost a decade. This has become particularly apparent in the recent weeks after she contacted the solicitors who are in control of the trust, pretending to be me from a rehab facility in the United States. Apparently, she sent them an invoice for a 3-month stay, requesting payment to the bank account of a friend of hers in the United States. The first I heard about this was a phone call from said solicitors offering me their commiseration that I was due to enter the facility, wishing me luck and double-checking the details. And when I heard this, I was absolutely livid, as I realized right then and there that I was being scammed. This is tens of thousands of pounds that she's tried to steal from me, money that she has absolutely no right to. She never met my adoptive parents, she's not owed any money from them, and she's lived a perfectly normal life with both of her parents, her other siblings, siblings, going on holidays, having her university paid for, and never having any real big dramas. And she thinks that she can just take them from me because she wants to buy a house, and thinks that I should help her out because I ruined her childhood. Except she can't even ask me about it, and instead she has to try and steal it from me. I have no idea what to do about this, because if I go to the police, then I'll create even more drama in the family that I really could do without. And I feel like that's exactly what she wants. Our parents will side with her and she knows it. I don't want to give her the satisfaction, but I'm just so mad that she chose this specific way to try and take what's not hers. It feels like such a low blow. What should I do? Oh my gosh, I cannot imagine running into this scenario because this is crazy. Bro, you're telling me this lady literally was like, oh yeah, I'm the original poster. I'm going back to rehab. Send me money to the United States. It's like, dude, what are we talking about? That is crazy. Thank goodness these people had the right mind to call you and be like, oh, okay, we just want to work out the details, because this is crazy. This is some criminal level stuff. And the fact that she tried to steal your trust fund and be like, okay, I'm gonna get this out of you, all because you allegedly ruined her childhood, like that is some crazy levels of weird. I just can't even describe it. And also, if she really thinks that you ruined her childhood, why would she go back to you to try and steal from you? That literally solves nothing. If anything, it's just gonna get her in hot water. Like, why on earth would she willingly do that to herself? So yeah, if I was in your shoes, I would stay no contact with that lady, because clearly she's a disgruntled adult who has no way of coping with her current problems. Because in my opinion, what she tried to do is incredibly criminal. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for refusing to cover outrageous costs for my future sister-in-law's bridal shower after I was told that I would have to foot the bill, as well as all the other bridesmaids that are involved? And with the cost of this event going up further and further than I expected, I'm now at a point where I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm a 23-year-old female and I'm going to be a bridesmaid in my fiance's older sister's wedding, which is set for October of 2025. While I'm excited to be part of her big day, I've been a bridesmaid before and I know how expensive it can be. The costs for this wedding are piling up quickly. I've already paid $300 for the bridesmaid dress, the required shoes, and $1,000 for the destination bachelorette trip. Initially, we were told there was no pressure to attend, but her mom later said that it was awful, that some bridesmaids were considering skipping due to the cost, so I definitely felt pressured to go. After we booked the trip, the maid of honor informed us that we would also be covering all of the bride's costs during the trip, namely the food, the drinks, or literally anything else. This was never discussed beforehand and added another unexpected expense on top of an already expensive trip. My future mother-in-law mentioned that as a bridesmaid, I'm expected to help pay for the bridal shower. She said she Googled it and found that the bridesmaids are responsible for the costs and not her as the mother of the bride. In all of the weddings I've been a part of, the bridal shower costs were primarily covered by family or a family friend who volunteered to host at their home, and the bridesmaids usually help with smaller things like games and decorations. I don't mind contributing to the bridal shower, but it needs to be within reason. With everything else I've already paid for, it's becoming unmanageable, especially since I'm trying to save for my own wedding, which is planned for mid-2026. My future sister-in-law is expecting a full catered bridal shower with elaborate decor, which feels unrealistic for a group of bridesmaids to fund. It also seems like she's picking things that aren't even within her budget and assuming others will cover the difference. So seriously, am I the jerk for wanting to set boundaries around the bridal shower cost, especially when it feels like at every turn, an unexpected expense comes up without any discussion? And trust me, I know that weddings are expensive, especially as I'm currently planning one out myself. But how much is too much to ask your bridesmaids to pay? In previous weddings I was a bridesmaid in, I would spend about a little over $1,000 in total. But in this case, that's not even covering the bachelorette trip. I do want to make this whole thing special for her, but it's just starting to get very costly. And I know the other bridesmaids are feeling the pressure too. We are all so young and we're just starting out our careers. So would I be the jerk here? Because right now I don't know what to do. Okay, first off, I don't think you would be the jerk here because I have never heard of anybody covering the cost of the wedding other than the parents or like the immediate family. Since when does the bridesmaid have to cover everything? That is so foreign to me. I've literally never heard of that. And it kind of makes me think that the mother-in-law is just straight up lying and she's trying to save costs by being like, oh no, that's coming out of your pocket. And they really seem like they're trying to take advantage of you. And just look at this mother-in-law's logic. Okay, so she saw it on Google. It's like, okay, cool. What is that supposed to mean? Why are we allowing Google to dictate who is and is not paying for this stupid wedding? Because in my opinion, whoever hosts or plans the bridal shower, they're the ones that need to pay. Because if the bridesmaids are the ones that are funding it, then they get to call the shots on how much they're gonna spend, not just be handed a bill and be like, okay, you need to pay
pay this. This is your obligation. This is what Google says.
Like, this is all so ridiculous in my opinion. So no, you're not the jerk here. I think you're absolutely being taken advantage of. And I think setting some clear expectations, regardless of how pissed off they might get, in my opinion, is super important in this scenario. My classmates from 5th grade ended up getting married together, all because of a prank that I played on them when we were kids. And even now, I'm honestly amazed by the way I played Cupid without even realizing it, as they are now a happy family with a kid. Here's what happened. Okay, so when I was in primary school, I was a bit of a chaotic little gremlin. I had this thing that I would do where I'd write fake love notes to girls, pretending they were from the sweatiest, stinkiest, most questionable guys in class. Now, why, you might ask? I did this purely out of pettiness, and it was my twisted way of getting back at girls I didn't like. There was this one girl, let's call her Wilma for the sake of the story, and I absolutely could not stand her. She was my mortal enemy in the 5th grade for reasons I can't even remember now. And then there was Alex, the unfortunate sweaty guy of the class. Alex smelled like sour milk that had been left out in the sun, and he was a little on the chubby side. And so, obviously, I decided they were the perfect victims for my master prank. I carefully crafted a love note in Alex's handwriting, which was basically just a series of crooked chicken scratches. And the note said something like, "Hi Wilma, I like you. Do you want to date me? From Alex." I slipped it into her bag during lunch, thinking this was going to be the most epic prank of all time. After lunch, Wilma found the note and went absolutely bananas. She was showing it to everybody, saying stuff like, "Oh my god, Alex likes me." I tried to play it cool and ask her what it said, and all she said was, "None of your business." Well, here's where it gets wild. Alex didn't even deny it. He just stood there, probably sweating even more than usual, and said something like, "Yeah, maybe I do." Meaning that my brilliant prank totally backfired, because not long after, Wilma and Alex started hanging out during lunch. They would sit together, giggling and sharing sandwiches, while I sat there stewing in my own failure. Fast forward to years later, and I was bored and stalking Wilma's social media. And guess what? She freaking married him. They have a kid together and everything, all because of me. I mean, I played Cupid without even meaning to. Sometimes I'd lie awake at night, wondering if I should send them an anonymous message, saying something like, "Hey, congrats on the family. By the way, your whole relationship started as a petty prank, so you're welcome." But either way, this whole scenario is kind of wild. Okay, this might be the first time where I can confidently say that the original poster is the bully of this story. Like, seriously, what is going on right now? This guy's trying to make it sound like, oh yeah, they have a family because of me. And it's like, yeah, and you probably have no one because of you as well. Like, for starters, why in the world would you treat people like this? You're already making fun of the quiet fat kid in the corner, and you decide to pair him up with a girl that you don't like for some reason that you can't even remember. And in fact, the original poster goes on to clarify that they actually had a crush on this girl. So basically, you tried to bully the quiet kid and get back at a girl that clearly did not like you. And then here you are trying to be like, wow, they have a family because of me. I didn't mean to play Cupid. I should really message them. And it's like, dude, this happened back in 5th grade, and you're still bragging about that as some kind of accomplishment? First of all, don't ever message those people ever again. But also, my man, it's time to grow up and move on. If some of your greatest accomplishments are literally something you did in 5th grade, then you need to get out there and live life more, because it really doesn't sound like you have grown up at all. And in the end, I think you're still that same bully from 5th grade, looking on as everybody else has moved on and you're basically left in the dust. An entitled jerk unsuccessfully tried to steal my airline window seat, refusing to move and literally looking at me as if I'm the crazy one. But thankfully, I stood up for myself and I didn't take his garbage, forcing him in his shame to move over so that I could take my seat. And it honestly felt so good to watch his face drop as he realized he was not going to win this interaction. Here's what happened. Okay, so while I was boarding my flight, I realized that some entitled idiot who had earlier pushed past other passengers to board first in priority group 1 was now sitting in my window seat. When I got to my row, I pointed and politely told him that he was in my seat. But he just looked at me and said, "Oh, what seat are you supposed to be in?" I told him, well, it's 11F, the window seat you're sitting in. I then proceeded to load my luggage into the overhead bin, and as I did so, the other guy in the aisle seat got up to let me move over to my seat, but guess what? This entitled idiot wouldn't budge. This guy just watched me load my stuff overhead, hoping that I would forget or something like that, and finally just accept his middle seat, which guess what? Is his seat. For context, I'm a 5'11" female, and I would never book a middle seat and risk being wedged between two people my size or larger. So after I finished loading my stuff, I just waited patiently for him to start unbuckling himself, collect his crap from under the seat, and then finally move. A couple other people also repeated to him that he was in the wrong seat, as I'm guessing they assumed that he was deaf, even though he wasn't. Well, there was no movement from this idiot, so I continued to wait in the aisle, resulting in a very satisfying staring contest that lasted at least 20 seconds before he finally started to pretend to fumble in his pockets for his boarding pass. I finally told him that we were all happy to hold up the plane and wait for him to move so I could get seated in the seat that I was clearly assigned on my boarding pass. And it honestly felt so good to stand up for myself because there was no way I was going to let this entitled jerk get his way. Oh, I love this for so many reasons because seriously, I can't imagine someone having the guts to be like, oh no, I'm taking this seat. This is where I'm supposed to sit. And then just sitting there obnoxiously expecting you to roll over and just be like, okay, you can have it, no worries. Like, this is really not a hard concept. When you get on an airplane, you have a seat that you're supposed to go to. And I don't care if you picked that seat or if the airline picked it for you. Congratulations, that's where you're sitting for the next few hours. So for anybody to realistically in today's day and age, sit there and be like, well, I want to sit here instead. It's like, no, man, you're not doing that. Get out of my seat that I probably paid more for and let me sit down. So seriously, I'm really glad that you stood up for yourself because people like this absolutely deserve to be shut down. Am I the jerk for asking someone to move out of my way in front of the disabled toilet as they were literally preventing me from going to the bathroom as I have a medical problem where I need to go to the bathroom, otherwise I'm in a lot of pain? Because right now I'm worried that I responded very rudely, and at this point I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so this is something that I've been ruminating on for a while. I went to a show on the weekend. I'm disabled, so rarely do I go to these things. And usually I get an aisle seat so I can go to the bathroom easily. Without oversharing, I have to frequently go to the bathroom, and if I don't, it can be very painful. I have adenomyosis, as well as a neurological disorder. At this show, tickets sold out quickly, and my friend booked them and said there wasn't a way to get to an aisle, so I just had to hold on. I went before and I would go at intermission, but it was completely worth it as I had a great time. At halftime, I was very uncomfortable and very sore, so I got up and I hurried to the bathroom. I assumed two people standing outside the bathroom were just leaning on the wall, so I walked past them with my radar key on hand. They then told me that they were in queue, so I waited, with one of them being very drunk. They went in together as they were a pair, and I waited outside. While I waited, I could smell cigarette smoke as I have a strong sense of smell. They took a while in the bathroom, not that I'm judging, and it probably felt longer as I was in agony at this point and rather grumpy. So when they came out, they were taking a while. One of them was corralling the drunk person and it was taking forever. So I said to them, excuse me, I can't hold my bladder. They then immediately got angry with me and said, well, neither can I, you're being so rude. But I responded by saying, that's nice, can I go pee now? And this is all because they were standing in my way, and at this point, I'm doubled over. Adenomyosis is not comfortable at the best of times, and I can get very snappy when I'm sore. Well, eventually I get in, I sort myself out in the bathroom that stinks of cigarettes, and then I get back into the auditorium. When I pass them, they get upset with me again, saying how I was really rude and that I should be more patient. But I explained to them that I was in a lot of pain, and I apologized for snapping. They explained they also had issues, and assumed that I was being rude, as their illness wasn't visible. But still, am I the jerk? Is there not a jerk in this situation? Honestly, I don't know. But I've been really stuck in overthinking it. On one hand, it feels like a big misunderstanding, but on the other hand, it comes to me when I'm relaxing and it just makes me cringe. What should I do? No, I don't think you're the jerk at all. It honestly seems like there was some major miscommunication in the heat of the moment, and I think moving on from this will really be the best option, because at the end of the day, you will literally never see these people again. And whether or not they understand where you're coming from is honestly something I would not try to focus on. My girlfriend doesn't drive, and she doesn't have a driver's license. And now, after driving her around for the 6 years that we've been together, I'm honestly at my breaking point and I really feel worn down, because at this point, I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so my girlfriend and I have been together for 6 years. She doesn't have a driver's license, and while it didn't bother me at first, it has been weighing on me more lately. We met in college, and back then, she took the bus everywhere, and I admired her for that because it showed resourcefulness, and I was inspired by her work ethic, balancing a full-time school schedule and a job. It was one of the things that drew me to her. When we started dating, I became her personal driver, taking her to school, work, and home. At the time, I didn't mind. However, as the years have gone by, I feel like the dynamic has shifted, and I'm starting to feel the strain. During our second year together, I suggested that she learn to drive. She seemed excited at first, but as time went on, the plans to practice driving would get postponed due to finals or other stressors. Eventually, she became upset when I brought it up, saying it added to her stress. Well, I respected her feelings and dropped the topic until after college. She graduated in 2023, while I graduated in 2022, and I started working full-time shortly after that. Over the next 6 months, I suggested driving lessons again, but the conversation led to her becoming upset. I decided to focus on supporting her and didn't push the issues any further. However, I started feeling burnt out from driving her everywhere, especially since she didn't have a job or taking any steps towards driving. At the start of 2024, she seemed more motivated motivated. She agreed to practice driving, and we had made plans to practice on the weekends. While the first few weekends went well, I noticed a lack of follow-through on her end. If I didn't wake up, she wouldn't call or text me as we had agreed. And on the days I did wake up, she sometimes wouldn't respond. This pattern made me feel like I was putting in more effort than she was. In June, she finally got a job, but works an unusual schedule from Saturday to Wednesday, starting at 7 o'clock in the morning. And since she doesn't drive, I have to take her to work. This requires waking up early on weekends and driving long distances during the week, about 80 miles a day, including the trips to my job and back. And by the time I get home, I'm exhausted and barely have time for myself. I feel like my personal time has disappeared. I'd like to work out after work, take a mixology class, or even just sleep in on the weekends. However, my responsibilities with her and sometimes her family make it hard to prioritize myself. I'm not sure how to address this without feeling hurt or blamed. I miss the hardworking and independent person I first met, and I want to find a way to communicate my feelings effectively while also finding a balance. How can I navigate this situation and express my needs without causing unnecessary conflict? What should I do? Okay, honestly, in my opinion, the fact that she is 26 years old and doesn't have a driver's license or has any aspirations to actively get one is unacceptable and not fair for you. You said it yourself, and I think you've hit the nail on the head. This is wearing you down and you literally just can't do anything else. Like, I know if I was in that situation, I would be incredibly pissed off and very stressed out. Because seriously, you are stuck driving her everywhere. You somehow became her personal chauffeur, and that is not fair for you in the slightest. So I can say, in my opinion, this really would be a deal breaker after a while, especially after 6 years and she still hasn't taken any time to get this done. So hopefully this works out, because honestly, this sounds incredibly obnoxious. My entitled grandma almost makes me walk home instead of just driving me over there, all because she was really impressed by the way she parked in a parallel parking spot. And I'm honestly still dumbfounded by this level of idiocracy that I seriously hope I don't deal with her in this way ever again. Here's what happened. So during my freshman year of college last year, my grandma agreed to pick me up from school for spring break and take me out to dinner. I was pretty happy because her and my grandfather had been in Florida for months, and I hadn't seen them in a while. First of all, she never reached out to me directly, and I found out she was picking me up from my mom. I was 19 at the time, I wasn't home, and very much had a phone, so I don't know why she was using my mom as a middleman. So I get packed up, and I'm sitting in my dorm waiting for her. Now, this is very important to the story. One of the things I was bringing with me was my betta fish, since I was going to be gone for over a week. I get a call from my dad, and he tells me that my grandma got in a car accident. No one was hurt, but apparently her tire popped. I will also add that she said her tire popped because the guy had something sticking off of his car, but honestly, it kind of seemed like she hit the guy. And it's like, okay, that's fine. I had to be out of the dorm by 7, but I understood if she couldn't get me. She ends up leaving her car with AAA and comes to get me in my mom's car. I put all my stuff in the back, and I'm sitting in the front seat with her with my fish in a container in my lap. We then get to the restaurant, which is a block away from my house, and we park in front. Her car had been fixed and parked across the street from where we were. And then one of the weirdest conversations I've ever experienced happened right in front of me. And I'm honestly still scratching my head over this one. She says to me, "Okay, is there anything you need to bring with you tonight?" Now, when she said this, I'm immediately confused. I had all of my clothing, my laptop, and a live animal swimming around in my lap. In fact, I had a birthday party to go to the next day. So I say to her, well, I need my clothes. And then she says to me, "Okay, then you're gonna have to move it to my car right now because I'm not driving you home in your mom's car after dinner." When she said this, my eye twitched. At this point, I am beyond confused. My mom was at work at the restaurant we were going to. She wouldn't be home until midnight, which means anything I left in that car, I would not have access until midnight. The restaurant was a block away from my house. So I ask her, why can't I just drop my stuff off there and go back? She looks at me and says, "I did a really good job parking." At this point, I kind of nervously laugh because it's like, what are you talking about? And then I pause to wait for her to laugh too, but she didn't. After a long silence, she gets out of the car and tells me to start getting my stuff. I'm holding a poor betta fish in my hands, and I'm mentally preparing to leave her in the car in 30-degree weather for over an hour at the demand of this obstinate retiree, when suddenly she looks down and goes, "No, my car's not that straight. We can go to your house and drop off your stuff there." So after all that, we ended up going to my house anyways. And at this point, I'm fuming for the rest of the night. When I got home, I told my parents what happened, and they were both also extremely confused. Just a whole lot of confusion across the board, all because of my grandmother and this stupid parking spot. It is always amazing to me that people can be so self-centered that they literally miss everything else that's going on around them. Like, they are so wrapped up in their own personal accomplishments or stuff they have going on, where they're like, "Wow, I did a good job parallel parking." But then they're like, "Oh yeah, by the way, the person that you drove there, they've got a living animal and all their crap with them. Do you really expect them to leave it in this freezing cold car while you guys go into a restaurant to eat? Not to mention the fact that the house is literally a block away. Like, what is going on right now? So yeah, your grandma was completely wrong for acting like that and for even pretending like she was gonna make you walk to the house. Because I know if I was in that situation, I would be incredibly annoyed. Thanks for watching. Subscribe down below if you haven't already. And also, please subscribe to Am I the Genius? I think you're gonna love what they're making over there. It's a great channel and you should definitely check it out. Everything will be linked down below in the description. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.